I would like to call to order the Town of McCandless committee meeting. And before we start our individual committee meetings run by the committee chairs, we're going to do 3 interviews of our 5 for our junior council person. So we're going to start with Andrew Sullivan. You can come up and sit right here. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous, anyone. So just take a couple minutes, and tell us what you just either about yourself or why you're interested in this, and then we'll just ask you a couple questions that won't be hard.
Cool.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
All right. So a little bit about myself. I'm a junior at North Allegheny Senior High School, and I am a member of the varsity boys soccer team, as well as a cabinet head on student council, and I'm part of Key Club, as well as orchestra. I play the violin, and yes, so the reason why I'm interested in this position is because I've always felt that I am a leader. I have been part of student council for the past 4 years of my life, of my career, and 8th grade I was the student council president. 9th grade I was a representative, and 10th grade I was the vice president at North Allegheny Intermediate High School. And I've just always thought of myself as a leader, and in doing different activities and events throughout my high school career, I have improved my leadership skills and overall shown to my classmates and my peers that I am a good leader and that I possess qualities that are able to work with other people and be efficient in that manner.
Thank you. We'll just go around the table, and if someone has a question to ask you, we'll just... Greg, do you have a question?
Yes, Andrew. What benefits for yourself do you see in this position of being a junior town person?
Definitely just learning more about the community. I've been a part of this community. I've been born in this community. I've lived here all my life, and I just feel like in getting this position, I would be able to learn more about the surrounding community and what I can do to improve that and work together with everybody else to improve that community.
Okay. And have you familiarized yourself with the town's website?
I have, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Good for you. Thank you. Thanks, Susan.
What is one of your most favorite experiences being a leader and in a leadership setting?
My favorite experience is actually last year in student council. I proposed an event where it would be a event called Candy Connection, and it would the main goal would be to spread positivity in a way that I would bring in a lot of candy to the school, have it on a table, and during lunch periods, if the kids wanted to, they could come up and write on a post-it note a positive message or something encouraging that could be beneficial to somebody looking at it or seeing it. And then we posted it all around the school, and it was really cool because the post-it notes are obviously colorful and it adds a nice aesthetic to the school, and just the positive messages were really nice, and overall it was a huge success, and it was fun to do.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Andrew, hey, is this the first time you've been to a council meeting?
It is, yes.
Oh, okay, well, great to have you. The question I have for you is, when you were in 8th grade and you were the class president,
Yeah.
can you tell me what the toughest part of that job was?
Toughest part of it, I would definitely say the toughest part of it would be toughest part of being the president would be getting involved in the community, because we had a lot of different events scheduled and planned for around the community. We just didn't know how to get those done. So I think the toughest part was planning those out with my subordinates and getting those into effect.
So you learned the time commitment, the need for a time commitment?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for that. No further questions.
I basically have two questions.
Okay.
Are you interested in going into governmental work?
Yes, I am.
You are. Okay, and with as active as you are, which I congratulate you, that's wonderful, do you feel you would have time to fit this into your schedule?
I do actually. Over the past couple of years, I have been very effective with fitting in my schoolwork and my outside of school work, along with stuff that I do in the church. And I feel like adding this on would definitely be a new time commitment, but making this one of my top commitments would be a priority. And I think that in that way, I would be able to fit it in with the rest of my schedule.
Thank you.
Hello, Andrew.
Hi.
I have a couple of questions. One, could you give a little description of what your function is as you serve on student council in your current situation, and how do you communicate with your fellow students, for example?
Yeah, so right now I'm actually a cabinet head on the dance committee for North Allegheny Senior High School, and that position it definitely takes on more responsibility than just being a regular representative in the committee.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that using text messages and emails towards the other people in the committee is always huge. Communication is so big, and keeping up to date with them and really getting stuff done. And yeah.
And then the other question I had is, have you ever taken a look at the materials that we distribute before each council meeting to inform ourselves on what's going to go on and our citizens? Just, a packet. For example, tonight we had a packet of documents like this.
Right.
Have you ever had occasion to look at those? And
I have not.
if you become a representative,
Oh,
I'm
right.
sure
Yeah,
you
of
will.
course. Yeah, of course. If I become a representative, I would definitely take more time and look at those and
Okay.
really delve deeper into
Well,
them.
thank you very much, and best wishes to you.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions.
All right.
Thank you
Yep.
so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate you coming, and we will send you a letter if you were accepted and if you weren't, so you will definitely hear from us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you for your interest.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take care.
Christina Patterson. Hi, welcome. Thank you for applying.
Thank you for having me.
Spend a couple of minutes telling us why you're interested in this, about yourself, and we'll just do it the same way we did the last time.
Sure. So my name is Christina Patterson, and I am a senior at Vincentian Academy, but I live in North Allegheny School District, and my younger brother Scotty goes to NA, so there's a little bit of rivalry between us about that. But so at my school, I am an executive officer on student council, and I'm also the secretary. So a little bit of what that entails. When we have new guests at the school, I'm one of the first people to intercept them. I'm somebody that helps head dance planning. So if we're having a big event like homecoming or prom, I'm somebody that helps to run that. I also participate in research at the Human Engineering Research Laboratories in Bakery Square. So primarily knee osteoarthritis and developing exoskeletons. So I'm helping with the background research and speaking one-on-one with people that have those disabilities and helping them. And that's an issue that's close to home for me because my younger brother Scotty is in a power wheelchair, so we spend a lot of time together. But I'm also the captain of my school's field hockey team, so what that entails, I help to coordinate practices, and I consider myself kind of an older sister of a lot of the girls on the team, so that's a great opportunity. I'm also really lucky to have a position as the junior board member at the Northland Public Library, and that's been a really great experience. But at Northland, they are governed by 5 municipalities. They cover 5 municipalities, whereas McCandless, of course, as you know, is a different experience. So I think that seeing those perspectives and kind of comparing them would be a very unique experience and something that would give me maybe better input in meetings if I were to have this position.
Okay,
Yes, Christina, you have a strong academic schedule, strong academic credentials. I was really impressed. And you really have a science bent, and that seems to be helpful to really a lot of people, especially people that are with disabilities. So, but I'm wondering, are you interested in going into government at all?
So I'm actually interested in receiving a degree in mechanical engineering, but what I would like to do with that degree is to become a patent lawyer.
Mhm.
But I would like to work hand in hand with government officials, because that's a field where a lot of times patents are needed to be acquired in that field. So I think, and I would also like to minor in business. So I think that working with government officials, because I would like to work on the law side of things, would be a very valuable experience. So even though I do come from a STEM background, I think that I would definitely contribute a different perspective, but I would also be interested very much so in the goings-on of McCandless and the going-on of the government, so that I will in the future know how to interact and work with people even better.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was curious, is there any groups so for North Allegheny and for Vincentian? Like, I didn't know how often do you get to interact with the kids from NA, or?
So I would say it's not often facilitated by our schools, but I know many kids at NA, especially since my younger brother has a lot of friends. But through field hockey, I've met a lot of people at schools in the area, so that's been also an experience. But I would say that North Allegheny, there's definitely an outreach, because I'm a part of campus ministry, so we've definitely worked with North Allegheny students, and it's been interesting seeing how they view things differently than maybe at my schools.
Okay, yeah, interesting, thank you.
Thank you.
Christina, I'm very impressed. I have one question. What was your turtle's name?
Excuse me?
Your turtle?
So it's kind of.
I was just taken by the story, you know.
So my younger brother Scotty, I fought him so much on this, and he told my family, he's like, we're gonna name the turtle Rubbin. And I said, you mean Robin? And he said, no, Rubbin, R-U-B-I-N. So every time somebody asked me at school what's your turtle's name, I had to say his name is Rubbin, and they always would say Robin, and I would say no, it's Rubbin.
Thank you.
So I
I'm
would
the
think
first
it-
person that asked. Okay. Thank you, Christina.
Nice to see you again, Christina.
see you as
Christina
well.
sits next to me on the board at the library. Very impressed with your resume.
Thank you very much.
And I would just like to let the rest of the council know that she's done such a good job in her junior year that we've asked her to come back for her senior year to also be on the junior representative.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Christina, I read the resume, and I really don't have any other questions at this point. Extremely impressive, as other people have observed, your academic achievements and other activities, so I'm sure you're going to do well as you proceed down the rest of your academic life. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no questions.
Of course, this is a new position that we have, and I see it as you would kind of facilitate information kind of flowing, in two directions. We kind of hear from your perspective, and then you take some of the things that are going on in town kind of back with you. So how do you see yourself communicating with the different schools or the different people who are in McCandless? How do you see?
Yes, well, because I have experience not only being a leader, but also being the person that kind of receives other people, receives other visitors, I think that my role as an advocate, I'd be very happy to visit schools, to talk to people at other schools, to use social media to reach out to people at other schools, and to reach out to young people who might not always be involved in the dealings, because even walking in today, I knew that because we were under 25, we were automatically assumed to be the people that were being interviewed today. So hopefully that would change a little bit, but even if that doesn't change, getting the opinions of the people, that just seeing what that population has to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for applying.
Thank you. Nice
What
meeting you.
a pleasure. Nina Rappiello. It's nice to get to meet you, finally. We talked
See you
by
again.
email now and then.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. A little about yourself, and then
Sorry. Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Nina Rappiello. It's nice to see all of you again after proposing this. So I'm a senior at North Allegheny High School, and a few of the things I do in my free time, I'm a part of a group called GrowGo, and that meets twice a month to work on what we see what might be areas of improvement needed in the Pittsburgh community. It's girls from, I think, 5 different counties all coming together to really try and make a change and help the Pittsburgh area. I'm actually a leader on one of the committees this year, and so I get to help lead girls to find their voices also and teach them more about how government works. So being a part of that is amazing, and it's really amazing to be able to lead the girls and help them find their voices because it is a girls-only group, and they've recently expanded, so now there's 150 girls who are a part of it from all over Pennsylvania. And then also, I'm a part of the North Allegheny Save the Children Action Network Club. So we're the only chapter in Pennsylvania, and what we do is we help with early childhood education, and we really work to make sure that students around the area are, when they're younger, getting the resources they need to really be able to learn so that they can grow up and really help become a part of the workforce. And so last year we did a drive to help get resources to a school in McCandless, I believe. And so we would love to expand and do that again this year and hopefully find a preschool that could really use the resources a little closer to home this time. We just had a connection at that one, and that's why we chose that one. And so that entailed getting all the homerooms at the North Allegheny Senior High School to really be involved, donating slightly used toys and books and money so that we could help get them the things they needed for their Head Start funding so that they could continue to thrive and really bring a new generation of kids into the area that could learn more and help improve their speech and all their learning skills. Also, I'm a co-president of another club at our school called Kids of America. What we do there is we talk about current events. It's a bipartisan club. We welcome everyone. We want everyone's opinion. And we just talk about current events, our different opinions on them, because we really want to get everybody involved and talking and not just listening to their different personal opinions, but really understanding everyone's opinions just so that they can have a better scope of the world and really understand how everyone else is thinking so that they can see both sides of every argument and every current event. We meet once a week. Right after school, and we bring donuts because everyone loves donuts. And also, I'm a member of the National Honor Society, so that includes doing volunteer work while maintaining a rigorous course load and making sure that you're really a part of the community. One of the things I hope to do if I am chosen for this amazing position is really bring the gap between the community and what I hope to do one day into view. One day I do hope to go into the government. I want to go to school for international relations, and for me, being able to bring the community that I've been a part of since I was born in McCandless, lived here all my life, together and really help see that as government seems to be getting on a more and more national stage, it really all starts here at home.
Very good. Nina, I noticed that you're active with 4th and 5th graders from the inner city in the elementary inner city elementary schools, tutoring. How's that going?
So that's going really well. I have a personal connection with one of the students. His name is Jameek. The few times we've met, the last time we met was in June, but that'll be starting up again soon, or maybe it was May. But it was the end of the school year, and I made him pinky promise, because kids love their pinky promises, that he would read his books over the summer and stay out of trouble. And I'm really excited to see him again and make sure that he's still learning. He was really good at math, so we were helping him to improve his math skills and get ahead of where the other kids were in his class, so that when he does become older and starts to apply to colleges, that he has that edge over the other students. And we were also working on his reading and comprehension skills.
Real good. Yeah, thank you.
What is your most favorite experience as a leader?
I have to say, the supply drive for the school in McKees Rocks was my most favorite experience. Getting to see North Allegheny come together to help children who need more resources and a little more help than many of us as children did, and really getting to see them bring out their old favorite memories of books and toys so that they could pass it on to a new generation so they could learn also.
Nina, I'm curious. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, I'm curious. What sparked your interest in government?
I don't know. I've always been interested. I remember staying up late to watch the 2008 presidential election. I really wanted to know who was going to win. It was back when we all had those small little TVs. We were sitting in our basement. My parents were like, Nina, go to sleep. You have school tomorrow. And I was like, I need to know. So I stayed up all night. It's always just been a part of who I am. But I believe that it runs in my blood. I was talking to my grandma last month, and she was telling me how she's very excited that I will be active in politics as an adult, because she told me that her mom, before the women had the right to vote, was at the polls helping make sure that people were voting. So I just believe that it's actually just a part of me.
Well, thanks so much.
As you said, you're interested in international relations, but listening to you, you have so much interaction with children. Are you interested in doing anything with children once you're out of school?
Yeah, I'm not completely set on a path for where I'd like to go as an adult. I do know I want to study international relations, but I've always been very interested in helping make sure that all kids are getting the opportunities, or the same equal opportunities to the best of their abilities, so that we're not starting children behind other children, and that they can really grow and learn to become amazing people. So.
You might be able to work with children from other countries too,
Yeah.
then, so you could interact both things.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Nina, I noticed in your resume, and you sort of alluded to it a moment ago, you said, one day I would like to run for office. And what do you visualize that as being?
I visualize that on being at the state level or at the local level, doing what you guys are doing, really being a part of the community. Maybe one day the Senate, but I would like to stay more local, just because I really think that the most important things happen at the local level, and that you can really make a big impact in your community and really help the people that you've come to know and love.
So one of the questions, I assume by this time you've given thought to what you're going to do next year as you're a senior. Have you selected a college to go to yet?
No, not yet. I have been admitted to 2, but I haven't made any decisions, and I haven't finished applying yet.
I'm sure you have some very excellent choices, but thanks for your answers. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
And I have no questions.
I want to thank you for sending me a letter and proposing this whole idea. It was something not even on my radar, probably anyone else's, and that initiative is very impressive to me, and I wanted to thank you for doing that. I think this is a great opportunity, and obviously a lot of people agree with that, with unified applicants. So I wanted to thank you for that, but I have no questions.
Thank you. I just want to thank all of you guys for taking the opportunity to get a student voice involved no matter what.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I am always impressed with the applicants that we get for all of our committees, but these young people are knocking me out. I gotta tell you. They are. I think the future's we got a chance. If you don't mind just opening that door so people know they can come in if they need to, or if you want, whatever. Okay, yeah, maybe a little quiet out there now. Okay, Craig, do you want a zoning committee? Do you want to call
I
that?
call to order the zoning committee meeting for the month of October 2018. The first thing on our agenda is to review the land development application of LaRoche College to replace outdoor batting cages with approximately 3,400 square foot building housing indoor batting cages and an office area to be installed by LaRoche College adjacent to its baseball field at 9,000 Babcock Boulevard, which is off Tunkin Avenue. Is Bruce there?
Here he is. Where are we starting at?
We have the batting
Roof
cages.
batting cages?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were going to have our overhead projector.
No, this is in the
Not for
schema.
These are
Yeah,
not for these guys.
these are not big things.
There we go. You guys are up.
We are?
Yep.
Okay. Where do you want me?
Well, we need your drawings. Mark's got the drawings.
Mark's back there, yeah.
I guess we need how many we need, Mark? We can have 2. you read this is a 3,400 square foot batting cage. Reason they have to come here is anything over 2,500 square foot has to go through the whole planning process through town council and the planning commission. 2,500 or less just goes through the same process, but it's administrative. They don't come to public meetings. And what they're doing, we have JR with us tonight, and Mark. You guys know Mark Michelini. What they're doing is replacing outdoor batting cages with indoor batting cages. And what you're hearing tonight is going to be the more or less the ideal situation, providing they get the funding to do what they want to do. It's a complete batting cage, indoor batting cage. It's going to have bathrooms, and it's going to have a storage area. Yeah, want the other one? You want this one too? Okay. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Mark, who will go through the site plan process. They recently went through a site plan, so most of the things are in place for this already. But we still had to go through stormwater and some other things. So I'll turn it over to Mark.
Okay, so this is the existing facility, the soccer fields, ball fields, the existing outdoor batting cages.
Where's Duncan at?
Duncan is here. This is Duncan. Roche is over here. Stormwater management pond that we put in for the original, for the soccer fields and the ball field is right here. So that's kind of the overall of it. So this is basically the kind of the site plan, acts as the parking lot. So right here is where the existing batting cages are. Basically, we're just taking those out and replacing them with the indoor batting cage. It's, I guess, about 3/4 of it is batting cage, and the other quarter of it is just support for the batting cages, storage, what have you, a couple bathrooms. So in order to get this in, the existing sidewalk kind of comes right at the outer edge of the fence for the batting cages. So in order to fit the building in, we rerouted the sidewalk to the front. Utilities for the bathrooms, we're bringing gas, sanitary in from the front, electric in, and then water, we're connecting to the existing water to provide services. Storm, we had to reroute the storm because the storm, as it is now, kind of goes on the outside of the existing batting cages, right through here. So we rerouted those to the rear of the new facility, tied back in. Stormwater management, it's already kind of taken care of. So when we did the original project, we actually sized the facility just for some additional impervious area, just kind of thought there may be some future work, so we actually sized it a little bit larger. So whenever we added this, the extra impervious, it still managed to work with our pond, and we do have approval through PVE. They approved the plan. So we are taking out some trees out front here, and got a landscape plan. So we're replacing those trees with a couple over here and then out front to replace what we took out. That's about it from it's pretty simple plan, not a whole lot going on.
So what you're doing is just putting the building right where it is, where
Pretty
batting
much,
is now.
Yes. Yes.
Planning Commission commented on the landscaping, and I see Mark added landscaping. Is there any lighting? We also had questioned the lighting.
We just had, I think, a note on to relocate some existing light poles that were there on the utility plan.
Which they're just downlight solar,
Yeah.
from the neighbor's perspective. We just did solar lights, they're not, ran.
Are you removing trees
Yes.
to add those trees?
Yes.
How much more square footage is this than the old batting cages?
It's roughly, it'll be a little bit wider than the batting cages are now. Maybe a few hundred square feet, all said and done.
Not much.
No,
It's
not-
about the same for all
Yeah.
practical purposes.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a replacement, so as far as like parking, we don't anticipate any additional
No.
need for any new parking or anything. It's just kind of just basically going from outdoor to indoor is all we're doing.
And it's just for the students to utilize it in the winter to alleviate all the capacity in Kerr Fitness Center during the winter, like when basketball's there. Softball and baseball will now practice in this building and instead of on the basketball court, giving intramural sports a chance to actually utilize that facility in Kerr.
Mark, do you have the building plan? The architectural plan?
Well, there's a couple of renderings that we had.
That was one of our comments, was questions more than that, comments, was what are the building materials? And what's the use of the building? JR, you could probably explain the whole.
Yeah, so our first thought was, a couple thoughts. Our one thought is just doing a pre-engineered building from Allied Steel Buildings, which is, which would be like insulated panels, so it would be, aesthetically pleasing to, to Duncan and to the neighbors that, border this area. Then the second option is just a conventional type of construction stick frame with brick and block or some type of siding. This was done because this was submitted for a grant by the Gaming Commission, Gaming Multi-Grant, that our baseball coach applied for and these renderings were chosen as part of it for the grant approval. And that finally came through. But with this grant, any other state grant, the college has to fund so much of it. So we're estimating about a $500,000 budget for this, to build this. $250 of it was grant money, and then the college has to support another $250 on top of that. So that's kind of where we're at in this phase. Our goal is to get this approved so we could go out and get actual cost bids and hopefully have this completed by March when baseball starts. If not, we have to wait till the following August with all this.
So this is the side that's facing the field. These are garage doors more or less, and they'll be able to open them during the better months. And this is the, you said you are going to bid it with an option of windows over here, right?
Yes, these would be the windows
Oh,
here.
those would be the
This would be
windows.
facing Duncan,
And these will be the garage doors?
facing the field.
Okay. So it's being bid this way, won't necessarily be built this way. If they can afford it, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Questions?
Good.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Let me see if there's any questions from the public. Well, the applicant's still here. Any questions from anyone there in the public? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening.
Thanks. Well, Mark, you're staying.
The next item on the agenda is a review of the land development application of North Allegheny School District for a renovation modifying the existing front canopy and adding a child drop-off pickup canopy for improved circulation, replacing windows, and construction of an approximately 5,400 square foot expansion of McKnight Elementary School located at 500 Cumberland Road. I believe the expansion is for art?
2 art rooms, yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Bob.
Ready?
Yeah.
My name is Rob Gartner.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Bruce Henry.
Go ahead.
You sure?
You're introducing yourself. That's what I was going to do.
Okay, I'll take that. Okay. Rob Gartner, North Allegheny School District. I'm the Director of Facilities. With me tonight is Ms. Cassie Reniger, the architect with VEBH Architects, who has been working with the district through the study phase and now through the design phase for the improvements at McKnight Elementary School. And as you know, Mark McElhaney, who has been here for the Roche project and many others in the past, I'm sure. The district is currently in the final design phases of some renovations and additions at McKnight Elementary School. This school was last renovated in 1999, so it's coming up on a 20-year cycle of renovations. The majority of the work is all really internal to the site and internal to the existing building, relocating some classrooms, modifying some existing spaces, converting the old history area into classroom spaces. Again, really internally significant renovations inside the building. However, there is a small addition here in purple. Currently, this is a paved playground area, and there's another soft playground area space here. Those, as you see, will get relocated, and we'll talk a little bit about those changes in a minute. This addition will do two things for us. It'll allow us to construct art rooms that are really set up for art rooms. Currently, art rooms are over here in two existing classroom spaces. So they're functional, but they're really not set up as a true art room would like to be in these days. Also, we'll be updating many of the finishes in the building, removing some existing demountable walls inside the building, really spending a significant amount of time and energy to work to upgrade the building. Just so everybody has a perspective, our current estimate for this work is $18.2 million. So we are making a really significant investment in this facility. There is some, reworking in the front, and I'll let Cassie and Mark talk about that. But back to this new addition will actually benefit us, and it'll create a circulation loop here now that we currently don't have. This two-story section of the building currently houses the second grade. Those second grade classrooms are moving over here. The first floor level is becoming some kindergartens. Kindergarten becoming first grade. Significant real kind of reconfiguration inside of the building. So the gym and the library are staying in their existing area. Some modifications to the main office. And again, the majority of the classroom spaces on this side of the building are staying as they are. But we are, again, removing the demountable walls that were built when the buildings were built back in the 60s. And putting in a real drywall partition with insulation, replacing lockers, all those kinds of things. So we're really looking forward to the improvements at the building. I'm going to turn it over to Cassie, the architect now, so she can go over kind of the details, and then Mark can talk about the site development work. So I'm going to step in the back here.
Okay. Well, I think Rob did a pretty good overview here of the project, but some of the things on the site that we're doing is right now the buses use the front of the school for drop-off and pickup, and that will remain. The parents use a small drop-off loop on the side. Part of the site development would be to enlarge this queuing space so that there's additional space for parents' cars to line up and then do drop-off on the side. And then we're also improving access to the back playground asphalt area for overflow parking. During the day, this would be gated off and be used as play space, but for evening events or weekend events, it gives the school some ability to accommodate additional parents and grandparents as they come to the school for events. Something else that we're doing is reworking the service area down here, which is adjacent to the kitchen cafeteria. So we're improving the loading dock area for receiving, and then we're also improving dumpsters, not only here, dumpster enclosures, but also in other locations on the site. We're improving access to them, but we're also constructing enclosures that would be more aesthetically pleasing. The blue areas, the play areas here, are areas on the site where we would have play equipment, so there would be safety surfacing as well. Do you want to do any other site stuff, or should I show?
Bruce, you want us to do all site?
Yeah. particularly what we did for the fire marshal. Early on in site planning, we met with the fire marshal, and access to the building and fire hydrants was a concern of ours. And the school district went ahead and
You want to hit that,
improved
Mark?
the site for that reason.
As far as, well, we've got a hydrant out front that in reconfiguring this service area, we're just relocating it, so it's moving about 10 feet out.
And if I could
Basically-
interrupt 1 second, these drawings that Mark is referring to are actually rotated 180 degrees from this color site plan here, so
Yeah, we're
just
backwards, this is north.
take a minute to
North,
flip it
north,
in your
south,
head.
Tough to adjust to that.
Cumberland Road's up top.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
Cumberland's at the
yes,
top.
so we're oriented due north here. The hydrant, and then it came up with our initial meeting with the fire marshal that there's a hydrant down, it's kind of down in a field away from any access, so he asked us if possible if we could relocate that hydrant to provide a little better access for it, so we did. We're able to extend it and put it up close to this loop for the drop-off. Another issue was getting access to the back of the building. As it is now, I think it's kind of tough for them. It's a pretty narrow access route to get into the back, so we widened this out. Right now we're showing a 20-foot wide two-way access, and we did do a truck turn. It came up at the planning commission meeting. There was some concern about access, so kind of did it in a couple of different directions. Had them coming in from this direction, looping around, and coming in this way, looping around. And in order to get this to accommodate the truck, the fire truck, we actually opened these radiuses up a bit, so they're not actually a uniform width throughout the entire drop-off. So that was done for fire truck access.
Mark, with regard to that, question came up, could a fire truck enter that back area from either direction?
Well, we did the second.
Okay.
That came up at the planning commission meeting, and we did, there was a request for us to show if a truck maneuver could make this from coming in, I guess from the main entrance. So it can make this loop. It's a little convoluted, but it can make it. It may
Run up over the curb.
maybe run up over a bit of a curve, but I think we actually made it through. And usually if we can make it through with our truck turn, they're kind of conservative. So typically, if our computer-generated truck works, typically they don't have any trouble with it. So we've shown that basically they can come in either access and get into the back of the site. And I know that was a big issue with Dan when we met with him to get him in and back out. And I think this is a great improvement over what you have right now.
Yeah, the fire marshal's comment was that it's much improved. He was very happy to have the fire hydrant moved so that it gives better service to either building.
Right, it's
And
more
it's
center.
a much better location, and then access to the rear of the building is much safer. And with the widening that Mark pointed to in the beginning for the truck turns, he was very happy with that. I wanted to point that out because that was a significant improvement for us. Sidewalk.
Start out here.
Yes.
Well, what do you want to, we're showing
this
a sidewalk Of along
Cumberland?
Cumberland.
That's
Now, we
nice.
are requesting a waiver modification to eliminate that sidewalk. It's just site-wise, topography, it's just a very difficult build to try to get a sidewalk in. It's a hillside, it's heavily wooded, there's steep embankment dropping down to Cumberland. There's a steep embankment dropping down into the site. It would be very difficult to try and install a sidewalk at this location, so we were requesting a modification. We do have a sidewalk that comes to this point and crosses Cumberland, so it does provide access to the north side of Cumberland. I think if ever a sidewalk needed to go in, it would probably be better suited on the north side versus on our side. It's just really tight.
Very tight, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife and I were taking our grandson to soccer practice at the elementary school, and we actually walked up to St. Simon Way along a path that runs along the back of the school, and found that really a lot easier. And we came around, and then we walked down Cumberland, and we could not walk on the south side of Cumberland. We had to move over because it was so tight.
Yeah, the side comes right down. On the
Yeah, and we had to, we walked the north side of Cumberland down, but there's so much traffic. So much traffic there, I would hesitate to encourage kids to travel that up to go to McCandless Crossing West. And therefore, the path to St. Simon Way behind, what's it, Lowe's behind, is much safer as far as I was concerned.
What's that path covered with?
It was stone, but it was also a lot of mud. And so I asked someone, actually my wife asked somebody about the path, and he said it needs some work, so because it's sort of overgrown a little bit in some places, but we still can walk up it.
I think it's one of the trails, Toby, that are in that back area that the phys ed department uses as part of PE in some cases. But it's not prepped. It's a dirt trail in some areas, but it is stone.
Would
in
the
some.
school be willing to work on it? Can we ask them to do
Again, I'm
that?
not sure exactly, because there's about 5 different ways I've walked through there, so I'd have to kind of look at where each one was to tell you if that's doable or not. I don't.
Well, actually, there's
Sure exactly where
asphalt path up to maybe the last 100 yards. That starts going through the woods, and then up a hill, and it's a short distance, and I think it would be easy to maintain. Maybe not easy because the hill's fairly steep, but for a youngster that should not be any problem.
Would that be where the cross-country track runs up over the hill?
Again, I'm guessing there's part of that. Greg, I'm not sure exactly which trail you're on because there's.
I'm on the one that's the closest to the school, in the back. There's
several trails that I've personally walked that get you to different spots on that Lowe's side of the site. So I'm not saying we can or can't. I just not exactly sure which one he's.
This is Cumberland up here. This is
this is it here.
Right.
So this would be the
I
trail
don't know
here.
that it's a route to the elementary school
Oh no,
This is the path
during the
here.
day.
It goes up.
It's more just if there are kids that may want to go to the shopping after school or something.
All you
Yeah,
do is
what
continue
are we
on,
doing though? Are we
and
bringing
going up a steep hill
a bunch
to
of-
Lowe's?
Okay,
Like the
we
intermediate?
need to have one meeting here, so let's, right.
the intermediate kids go through to
Yeah.
Cumberland?
That's what I'm trying to find out, if kids are using this.
The kids are using it.
So we have discussed in lieu of sidewalks, something else. So,
Right, but this is a place where a lot of kids use. I mean, I walked up Cumberland hundreds of times.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
You've
that
walked
is-
up Cumberland hundreds of times? I mean...
I walked home from school literally every day the entire ninth and 10th grade
I
year.
mean, lately, the traffic seems unbelievable.
I agree but what I'm saying is that's a heavily used, or at least it was back 30 years ago, a heavily used kid area. There were a lot of kids that walked from between New York Hot Dog and Babcock Boulevard.
Well, I know when we're at events for the library with the kids, we all walk down the hill and park down there or park up the hill. It just depends how crowded it is.
Right.
So I know that's when I've walked it with the kids.
You walk
That's
Cumberland?
I think we
That's
might
yeah.
be talking about two different
Direction.
things at this point.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
but
there's
there's sidewalk from there up to the library.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
We have
yeah,
sidewalk
yeah,
from
so
there is a
Caldwell, I
sidewalk.
believe,
That's what I'm saying,
all
yeah.
the way
Right.
to
Yeah.
the library currently.
So we're talking about, the sidewalk is from here up to the library. There's no sidewalk from here
Yes.
down because of topography.
Exactly.
Right.
So they're asking to have relief from installing a sidewalk because of the difficulty. Now, we've in the past given people relief in exchange for something else.
But in the past, we didn't have, however many, what do we have there as far as kids go, at least to the intermediate, I would think 1,400 kids in the intermediate school.
I don't travel there every day, but I don't think I've seen any.
I've seen them running in groups on that road.
Well,
I've seen like the track team running with 20 people.
They're at North Park now, so I'm not sure.
Oh, are they now? I mean, I haven't seen them necessarily this year.
Yeah, that whole cross-country program has moved to North Park, so, yes, I mean, kids ran.
On Cumberland
Whereas-
Road up over that hill.
Again, I'm not,
Impact.
I'm just saying I can't control where every kid went.
No, I understand that. I'm just,
But I mean, if somebody was walking up that side on the south side of that road,
right.
they are not walking in a very safe
Nope.
location. They should walk on the other side of the road, as Greg said.
Right, but there's
We
a
have
lot
a
of fences
crosswalk.
on the other side, I see.
No, there's no fences along.
South side of Cumberland, north side of Cumberland, there
Not
are.
out to the road. I mean, there's a crosswalk that you cross to Cromwell.
Oh, we didn't have any trouble on the north side of.
There's
no
about 3
fences
feet, I
that
see
I saw.
fences.
It's all pretty open across there. But again,
Is that a fence?
if you,
Is it a fence to you?
It's a fence.
Looks like a fence to me. What about that one there? Is that a fence?
I think
Looks
it's a
like a
fence.
Should a
I mean,
partnership be sponsored?
I'm sorry,
No, no, you're counsel.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just feel that if we're serious about trying to connect neighborhoods to
Right.
business clusters, I think everybody here agrees what a vital corridor this is. You've got all those neighborhoods that, I think this is an important corridor that should have pedestrian access in some way. I don't know what the solution is. I'm
Right.
hearing a couple of different things, but I'm very serious about creating pedestrian corridors and connections in the community, and this would be a real missed opportunity if we just.
And if I had
I
to
agree
pick
with
a
you.
place, I almost pick this as one of the top 10
I
places
think
in
so, too.
McCandless of where we should have a walkable place that's safe.
I haven't
Well,
ranked them, but I
listen,
wouldn't
well,
disagree.
if you go behind the school and you walk the path and you go up to Lowe's, then you go through where you get the mulch, where they load the mulch onto your
Yeah.
truck, and right there, right at that corner is it starts a sidewalk that goes down and crosses over into McCandless Crossing West. I mean McCandless Crossing East.
Right behind Les. Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe.
But my
four
question with
sidewalks
that
for
is how
woods.
many adults that we don't necessarily want, and when I say adults, I'm including maybe 10th graders, don't necessarily want to be crossing by the playground of the kindergartners.
Well, wait a second. There's no 10th graders at the school, is it?
Well,
The intermediate's right next door.
School's right next door.
Oh, okay.
So you're basically putting a sidewalk where 9th and 10th graders would use, I would expect fairly, I mean, there's an ice cream place there, so.
Well,
There's-
that's on the other side. That's on, if you go on the other side.
Right, but if we don't use Cumberland as a sidewalk area,
To connect.
and we use the back side of the school,
Yeah.
Hill.
then, which is, coming up this back, where's your pointer at there, Bruce?
Oh, somebody
Don't
walked
have it.
away with it.
But coming up this back section of paved area, that's past three playground areas
Right.
of 6-year-olds, or I
Which
mean,
are
I
supervised.
imagine starting at 6, kindergarten, 5, 6. Do we want to put the path for everybody? I would
Well, the
think
path is
include
there.
adults. Well, I know, but do we want to encourage?
Maybe don't make it quite so formal, but a lot of the discussion at the EAC has been alternate surfaces.
That's right.
So maybe, we've had a partnership in the past with helping you with some profile asphalt material. We're starting to get a pretty decent stockpile. And maybe you had scouts involved, I do believe, or?
yeah, we've done some work with millings, and
Just
actually,
something
when
informal.
Lowe's was built,
And is that cleaned area? Is that an area that in the snow?
I think I think
No,
that we
it's
looked
not.
at though, just to see,
Right.
it has some natural feasibility to it. I mean, why don't we
Right.
I think just something to explore as an alternate.
Well, I know
Yeah, I
there's a
agree.
lot of things to explore, but my two big concerns are who is going to be walking on the trail, and if we're talking about going behind the school, who is going to be walking on that path, and how passable that path is going to be if we get 18 inches of snow.
I think the school board would have to sign off on something like that, and if.
Yeah, I mean, we're not plowing the trails behind NAI in winter.
But you would be plowing the sidewalks in front of it.
It would be as we do now, we maintain the sidewalks.
Right.
I think that there really is a serious logistical challenge.
I know,
though, with
I'm
building
aware.
A sidewalk
Yeah, this
here,
would
and
be-
even though, as you've said, there are fences on the opposite side of the road, it looks like maybe 2 fences that are like wood fences, and there's an actual right-of-way on that side that is relatively at grade with where a sidewalk would want to be. To cut this in, because it would be so steep, we would be having to excavate into this entire hillside because right now if you go up from say Lowe's in this direction, it's it's actually
It's
exposed
2 feet
rock.
from the ground.
There's a
you know,
gas
it's-
line in there, there's some other things about
It's-
it.
Pipeline there, you're not gonna.
And even if we were able to grade it, it would not be the safest, and having it on the side with the houses would make more sense because they would have access to the sidewalk and could walk to school.
Well, would it make more sense then to put the path on the north side of the parking lot where it doesn't go behind the school where the kids play?
Are you talking about here?
Right.
That's a steep hill there.
Yeah, you'd still have to somehow get from
Well, the
here and up and
parking's
over the
flat.
hill.
What do you all have
Fairly flat.
to offer? What's your idea in lieu of the sidewalk? If we say, okay, we agree with you on that sidewalk, what's your idea to offer in lieu of that sidewalk?
I don't know that I can offer anything. I mean, we've asked for a modification. I would say we would be willing to talk to the town about what, exploring the opportunity to improve this trail behind the school. Again, without knowing the details of what it may or may not take to do that. I guess that's the offer that I would make. A couple other points to just make. Even if we built this sidewalk, it doesn't connect to anything because there's no other sidewalk past our property, so it will be a sidewalk to nowhere. Now, if you can make other people do work, then that's something you have control over that I don't. So even if we spent the hundreds of thousands of dollars it would take to build this sidewalk, it would go to nowhere. So that's another point to just keep into consideration. I don't come here with an offer. I didn't know that I had to. I came with the request that this was really an unbuildable piece of sidewalk that we believe is not really physically able to be done.
I'm pretty sure that the sidewalk on the other side, it goes behind the school, and then you connect to St. Simon Way. I'm pretty sure that connects to McCandless Crossing East.
It does.
Okay. So it's right there. I mean, that's a sidewalk that connects.
It's just a matter of getting up the hill.
Right.
What did
And it's a matter of getting up the hill, even if it's a public sidewalk, we have the same issue, you still have to go up a steep hill.
What did we do with our last
Well, no, it's in the
sidewalk
public
that
right away.
they didn't want to put in? What was the last zoning thing that came through? Bill?
They ended up
Remember?
putting it in.
Oh, but
No, they only put it on on one side, not the
Oh,
other
that was
side, and then they did
Oh, they
something
didn't put
in
it
lieu of
along-
the sidewalk.
They didn't put it along,
Sunrise on Babcock gave us a cash payment because we have anticipation, and it's building anticipation through our comprehensive planning process to put a sidewalk system on Babcock. So they
Is that
agreed.
something we could think about here?
That's why I offered the suggestion of the feasibility of improving a pathway so that it's informal, but it's still, we could probably help with that, with the materials that we have, with the labor that, you just kind of have we gotta have a community project. You put the trail in around the back of your ball fields with profile asphalt from us, and you got the kids to put it in, right?
No, well, some
Student
different
groups?
people, we've had scout projects, so I can't say that each one
Ours,
was
I remember,
done.
was a mix.
Yeah,
Mixture. This looks like a candidate for that.
Again, I don't
Just a suggestion.
disagree, I just have to kind of get my eyes on it, because I'm not exactly sure which piece of the trail we're talking about. I don't disagree, I just,
But
yeah.
if we were to establish the concept here of having a sidewalk district at some point, then I think it might give us some legal ground to say, well, then we take some cash toward that.
There is a discussion right now among some attendants at the school about making it a safer crossing. Would that be a possibility of how we could make it a safer crossing? So that we at least connect to the neighborhoods across the street in a safer manner? Because getting across is as Greg pointed out, getting across Cumberland is no easy task.
Yeah,
even though there
that's
are-
another great alternative. If there could be a sidewalk district along Cumberland on the north side, which is the logical side, there are, we put a solar powered crossing for
Yeah.
we partnered with North Allegheny across Route 19.
I would think we'd
Well-
need two.
Well, there's a
Yeah,
crosswalk.
one of these
There's a crosswalk.
There's a crosswalk, but what
Yeah.
I'm saying is that it's, a lot of people in Pennsylvania and probably a lot of places don't pay attention to crosswalks, and it's not always that the pedestrians have the right of way. And Chief, I believe you got copied on the email about this also, that
I think that's down at the intermediates.
both
site
of them.
more than-
Brought up
Okay,
at
because
both
we
of
have
them.
a crossing guard at this one.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
I
was
think-
brought up at both areas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was under the, I haven't talked to Chief about that, but I had an understanding that that was down at the NAI crossing. I'm not sure what the name of that street is down below, but, because up here we have a crossing guard during the elementary school day. We don't have a crossing guard down below, so I'm not sure we solved that problem yet, but that's a separate site. But,
Yeah.
and we do have flashing school zone signs across that. It really
Yeah.
starts at the library and goes all the way
There
up
were
to the other
questions
side.
about that too.
Oh,
That came to
okay.
our attention. And I understood that school districts also. And it went to all of us.
Again, I knew there were some emails, I wasn't, not sure I was copied on.
Yeah, it probably
but-
wasn't you.
Okay.
But anyways, maybe if, my suggestion, I'm just throwing it out there, was if the school district would participate in something like a pedestrian yield sign or yield to pedestrian sign, like the one that we put at Route 19, that might be, I'm throwing that out as a possibility. Would depend on approval to do it.
Yeah, we need to make sure it gets enough sunlight too. Right, Toby?
Well, actually, the type of units that we put in, they use in Alaska, not during the 22-hour sunlight days.
Yeah,
All year long, they function. We have to spec out one that operates in a park.
I just know like that Cumberland is kind of a heavily wooded, as you go up Cumberland,
Yeah,
it's
through here.
pretty well.
Oh, yeah,
but
we don't want to be cutting 50 trees down so we get a solar powered light.
No, but I'm just, that's another small detail for another day.
Electric up that way is a problem.
Yes, it is.
Mr.
Again,
Chairman.
I'm willing to consider that as an option, but I, don't know what that all means right today.
I just had another question about the parking at the rear there.
Yes.
How close will the vehicles be to the building, and is that an issue with the fire marshal back there with any one-way in and out? How close are you allowed to park vehicles?
Well, we have
next to
a
school?
greenscape buffer along that edge. I don't remember was it 10 foot or so at least?
At least.
And then we have a greenscape. We actually, you'll see here, we have a rain garden going in here. So we are staying away from the building, I believe, about 10 feet.
And it exists anyhow.
Yeah, we currently actually have used it for overflow, not on a regular basis. Again, there is a driveway to it. As far as I know, Mr. Stack's not in here, but we haven't had any issues raised from him as far as that proximity.
Okay.
So do we want to have him look at the trail and see about that? Or
I
what
want
do
him
we
to
wanna
look,
do?
yeah, I think Toby's idea is good to have him look at the trail in connection with the, what, did you say, the Boy Scouts?
Or
us,
some
or
other
us?
community group.
Yeah, I would, could you do
Again,
that?
I can't make Boy Scouts do something, but we can definitely
There's a lot of
look for
community groups that
volunteers.
we can,
Yeah, I know, I'm just teasing you, but I mean,
Get the word out.
we always have kids looking for scout projects, so I would
Okay.
definitely encourage it if it's an opportunity.
Yeah,
So-
and sort of waive it for now and as he explores that.
Well, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, perhaps this is a good trigger point for us to undertake the construction of that ordinance. This is the second time in only a few months that this issue's come up. Understandable situations, but nonetheless, there's an obligation there to the community. Perhaps we should proceed with constructing that ordinance that would allow for a contribution in lieu of an unbuildable sidewalk structures. That
Well,
would be more
I
readily
think that's a
deployed.
great
Yeah,
idea.
even if it was across the street, it's 1,500 feet. About.
Who would be the contributor for that? So,
Development, the development
The development.
that's getting the benefit of not
not putting the
Not
sidewalk in.
constructing it.
Right,
Oh, the school, you mean the school?
right,
Yes.
yeah, because it's.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Because they're supposed to be
Wouldn't it
putting in
be
the
the school?
sidewalks, it'd be,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, they're the ones supposed to be putting the sidewalk in.
In the planning commission, in lieu of the sidewalk, suggested exactly what Greg and Pam did, suggested that we explore that path. And
Yeah.
apparently
So-
we did.
But Bill, if they build a sidewalk, what does it connect to?
It just keeps somebody from that walking up the hill and down the hill from dealing with the traffic as they're doing it. I mean, my own, I have no problem with the backside, like you're talking, the south side, if we can ensure the safety of the kids while other people walk on that and use it.
That's currently the
And-
condition, really, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, to answer Mr. Chairman's question, I'm not advocating that the sidewalk needs to be built. I'm advocating that the public receive the benefit of the obligation to construct that sidewalk in a more appropriate location that serves the public.
So you want to?
I concur with you that it's a sidewalk, it's a dead end, and we need a vehicle to deal with this and address it fairly, so that people that do build sidewalks aren't, the people that get waived get some type of special benefit.
And Toby has said,
He's trying to
what,
fairness.
$9 a foot on sidewalks is a normal?
$22.
Yeah, I paid like $12 a square foot to repair it.
Well, it depends on the conditions too, how much digging you have to do, but the
Well,
actual
obviously,
sidewalk
yeah.
itself is
Well,
maybe
that,
just about
well, that would be
$30 a
part of
foot.
the ordinance, we would say, in lieu of such
Square
and such
foot?
square footage, it would be this
$30 a foot.
cost.
Per linear foot.
30, I'm sorry, Steve,
Yeah.
So that's $9 a foot, about 10.
the sidewalks should be 5 feet wide.
Oh, are they 5 now?
Yeah.
Thought we were saying we were allowing 3.
No.
Oh, we
If
said
you
that
pass-
at
Our ordinance
consensus.
says 4, but you have to have a
You
bump
have
out
to have
every
a bump out,
250
it's a
feet.
PennDOT road, PennDOT's gonna want a 5-foot sidewalk on this road.
Yes.
So, but up to $6 a square foot is about the minimum we can get away with for a price.
That sounds low.
Yeah, that's
Good
very
for
low.
you.
But
Go
it's,
for it.
I'm
Yeah,
not
we-
going for it, I'm just
Yeah, I'm
saying,
just-
I said it was a minimum.
No, I'm good.
I heard your 12.
Yeah, no, well, that's removing a
So
piece of
please, yeah,
sidewalk,
I'm
so.
not being contentious.
No,
but
I agree.
Your 12 is a substantial number.
Right, I don't.
$6 a square foot is, for the sidewalk itself in a flat area prepared area,
Yes.
is not an, it's not an unrealistic.
I mean, that's 18,000. 18,000 if we're going 1,500 feet by $12 a foot.
Yeah, we just went through this
On an $18 million project.
Square foot.
with
$12
Irrelevant.
Square foot.
For Sunrise, we just went through
Wow.
this, and we went through it with Vincentian for
That's
their
right.
independent living, and Vincentian, after several meetings, decided
Say
they
5.
found a way to put the sidewalk in.
It's funny how that can happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they had to pay. They
That's
figured out a
right.
way.
That's right.
Yep.
So,
That's right.
the other one, Sunrise, it was a sizable amount of money for Sunrise, and for a relatively short piece of sidewalk. But there
So-
were conditions there that,
That's right, depends on conditions.
So if we went for the $5, $12 per square foot and the maximum 5 feet wide, which would,
Well, you'd have to do a
At
lot of
1,500
moving
feet.
dirt.
That should be cost out. It's rather than, we shouldn't establish an arbitrary number.
Yeah.
It'd be better to have the engineers look at the site and see what kind of, and then their engineers should do that, and then give us a number. Our engineers check it, that's the way these things
Well,
work.
yeah, but if you're talking about building on the south side of Cumberland.
No,
We're not.
I don't think you can because of the
Yeah,
Buckeye
but
pipeline is
those are private property on the north
being a
side.
right of way.
What they would do is what we're talking about doing is, since they can't build a sidewalk there, they would say, it would cost approximately.
Well,
whatever-
there, but you mean the north side or the south side?
The south side, they don't
Okay.
own the north side.
Right.
So they can't put it on the north side.
Right,
But what they would do in lieu of that sidewalk is they would give the town money, and then that money would be put into sidewalks at possibly a whole nother location in lieu of the sidewalk they did not have to build there. That's what we're talking about. Am I correct on this?
Yes.
Right.
Right.
They're
Right.
restricted funding.
Because, just because they have bad topography there, and another person has good topography, why should that person have to pay for sidewalks and them not have to pay for sidewalks?
well, because they're giving them a waiver. That's why.
Isn't this the,
No.
isn't this the location where the Buckeye,
Yes,
all the way down there? So,
yes.
so all this is theoretical, because Buckeye won't allow you to put a sidewalk on
No,
top of it.
they will not, only, and maybe a cross sidewalk, but not a parallel
Yeah.
side.
Because we ran into that down in the
We did on the other side of Cumberland.
other side of Cumberland, right?
What we've done in the past in situations like this is we have wording as a condition that the school district can agree to or not agree to. We'll approve the plan based on the idea that they would, whenever we decide the sidewalk would go in, we could modify, that they would pay for it to go in. We can modify that condition to say that when we, struggling for wording, when we come up with an ordinance to exchange for that, because it's technically infeasible to put a sidewalk in on their property, where it's required. So we can, what I'm suggesting is we can modify that and have the school district agree to it.
So even though you don't have an ordinance now that says it's a sidewalk district, we would still have to agree that when you put an
Well,
ordinance
what
in-
it says now is you have to put the sidewalk in.
Right, but we're asking for a modification.
Right, and our typical modification is,
It's a
when we
suspension.
require it, you have to put it in.
It's
Correct.
a suspension.
Suspension
So,
rather than
at
modification.
some point, you're gonna owe us a sidewalk. So you have, another alternative you have is, as Sunrise did, we have at least a conceptual cost study of how much extending a sidewalk would be in.
Right.
If everybody can see that crosswalk on the northern side of Cumberland someday, to get people across from your sidewalk that you put in along, that North Allegheny put in on the southern side, run the sidewalk up to McKnight Road, people can cross over, and we have the interconnectivity that's in our, it seems to be budding in our comprehensive planning process. So you don't, council's not granting waivers for sidewalks, and this is an absolute impossibility in the past. Now you can suspend it, and then you can wait and pay us, or you can pay us.
Do we have to pay the price of what it costs to do it here because it is almost insurmountable? Or would we pay?
I think
No,
that's
no, no.
Would we pay what it would cost to put a sidewalk in on a flat?
across the street.
Okay, so
The
just
logic-
because
the logic
Trying to
this
be
would
reasonable
be,
here.
this
Trying to
could
be
be
reasonable.
$50 a square foot on this side,
Right.
and you
At
put
least.
it on the other side for
At least.
whatever we said, $6 a square foot.
Reasonable question.
Yes.
Okay, just trying to
Sure.
understand the calculation process.
And to the limit of the school's frontage.
The value of, right, it's, right, the value of the ribbon of sidewalk that you would print and prepare on the other.
Oh,
on
it's
the-
half
on
the
the northern-
1,500
on the
square
northern
feet.
side.
And it would be used to put a sidewalk on the north side.
At some point.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
maybe not the north side.
Or some
Yeah.
other,
Or another
council
place.
saying, council
It may
saying
be
some
on a
other
whole nother
place.
road.
But I think the cost should be, a logical, would be to cost it out in a reasonable location, like across the street.
Right.
Right.
So the ordinance doesn't read that if it's impossible to put in, that council can waive it without ramifications?
It's a modification.
It does say that because we have it in two places. We have it in the zoning ordinance that it's required. It's in the land development ordinance, which allows us to grant modifications. So I would suggest, since this is a land development, we could grant a modification to not put it in at all, but that would be entirely up to council. So what we have done in the past, rather than grant a modification, we have granted a suspension in lieu of the sidewalk that we could require to be put in at another time. So what the suggestion is, I'd still like to keep open the suggestion of helping to improve the intersections, the crosswalks, with maybe lighted yield to pedestrian signs, or something like that, which would probably be more practical. If we tried to put the sidewalks in on the other side, I think we'd run into a lot of problems putting them even in on the other side.
So we're going to require them to put money aside and then not require them to do anything in the back. Is that right?
Or conjunction with.
You know, I think we could probably try to work something out that maybe would do both. I really like the idea of what you and Pam did. In fact, that's what, like I said, that's what we suggested at the planning commission.
Yeah.
Was to make that connection.
And considering the amount of traffic, I wouldn't want my child walking up those streets.
But do you want your 6-year-old while there?
Pardon?
Do you want your 6-year-old playing in the back when
Well, they're
The
supervised.
18-year-old walks around the front.
Well, they're
He
supervised.
walks right past them.
Yeah, they're supervised.
It's currently happening now. I mean, we don't have a gate, we don't have
No.
anybody.
But a sidewalk
watching
would
people
encourage
walk.
it, an actual, and on the, because that's a lot easier walking up Cumberland and back down. I mean, I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm just saying, are we concerned about it?
But other than that, I think the rest of it looks fine.
Did want to make a quick comment about stormwater. This is a pretty sophisticated stormwater system that's established here, and Mark, if you could give a 2-minute version of the stormwater.
Nope, I got it up there. Currently, the site drains to a small stormwater facility behind, to the south, and then from there it drops into the valley, which if you're aware, when we constructed Duncan Avenue, we actually created a large regional stormwater facility, so we put an outlet structure in that actually detains the water. So the entire site flows in, and rates are controlled by the regional facility. So for this addition this construction that we're doing here, what we're proposing, and what we really, in speaking with PVE or stormwater engineers, we just really are addressing stormwater quality. So to do that, we've added 4 small rain gardens. We have a rain garden in this landscaped area right at the north end of this overflow parking. We've got, actually this is a little pond to the south side. We've got another rain garden just south of the playground area, and then a rain garden in the parent drop-off area. So those 4 facilities basically take all of the rainwater from the new improvements from this entire building. It's infiltrated, so the 2-year volume is attenuated, meets both PVE's stormwater requirements and also the DEP stormwater requirements. So that's kind of how we handle the stormwater management for this facility.
And will the school take care of all of those?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
During a storm event, what do you anticipate the depth of water in those to go up to momentarily?
They're very shallow. These ones are probably about a foot of water in these 3 rain gardens. This one would probably get about 2.5 feet of water in it. So they're all they're not significant.
And they drain within 24 hours.
And they drain within 24 hours.
That one?
So the kids go around.
Yeah, we're gonna put a
Just,
fence around.
just for clarification
Put a
purposes.
fence.
Around the back one, the deeper one.
The deeper
ones that are.
Good.
For clarification purposes, the town maintains or no, who maintains
Yeah, you guys maintain the outlet structure on the dam.
Yeah,
We,
even though it's a school district property, they gave us an easement, we maintain the dam. We have
it's a regional.
we have the dam permit.
It's actually a permit that's in.
Yeah, that's a dam permit.
Yeah, the dam isn't even on our property, I don't think.
No, that's on our.
It's
Right.
actually in your
Part of
easement.
Part of it.
Okay.
Any other comments? Anyone in the audience have comments?
Is it clear about the summarize on the sidewalk, which direction we're instructing them to go?
Well, I guess why don't you make a study as to what it would cost on the north
Okay.
side, you know,
Just a flat sidewalk.
and also do something as to what.
I'll look at the back
Look at the
trail.
back. Yeah, it's.
I might call you just
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I get on the
Well,
right
but
trail.
yeah, I think it could come on.
I just, like I said, there's a whole spider web back
Yeah.
there, and I don't want to walk down the one that
No. Okay.
I think it is, and you were on this one. So
Yeah,
that's
it's- yeah.
neither here nor there. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is it 5 foot wide, Bruce?
That's for calculation purposes, yes.
Okay.
It would be a
So
5 foot.
I heard different.
Yeah, it's
widths.
5 foot on a state road.
Okay, 5 foot wide. We'll work on it.
That's not our requirement, that's their requirement.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you.
See you on October 22nd.
to make action.
The next item on the agenda is notification that a public hearing has been scheduled for October 15th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. on an ordinance tentatively identified as ordinance number 1479 as requested by Barrel Chevrolet, Inc. to amend the town of McCandless zoning code to change the zoning district of certain properties located on Little Meadow Road from R2, which is 1 and 2 family residential districts, to C3, which is a highway commercial district, and amending the zoning map of the town accordingly. This revision to the previously proposed amendment reduces the amount of area to be rezoned to C3 highway commercial district. A vote will be scheduled at council's regular business meeting on October 22nd, 2018. This hearing is to be conducted in addition to the hearing of September 24th, 2018 to fulfill the home rule charter requirement of certified letters being sent to adjoining property owners. These letters were sent for the original hearing conducted August 27, 2018. So it's just a notification.
If I could briefly talk, we have with us Dan Grachin, Christina Malkin, and Keith Knock from Barrel Chevrolet. Since we had the hearing before, if there are still any questions, I'm not anticipating that anybody will be at the next hearing. This is purely procedural. Although there was notification, it wasn't technical notification. And in order to avoid any possibility, the thing about zoning is, rezonings, if there's ever a procedural error, that procedural error exists in perpetuity, and someone could challenge it. So in order to eliminate that possibility, we discussed options. We thought it best to have a new public hearing, so we went that route. We were able to meet the same timelines. We can still go on with the same vote. So, but nothing's changed. We have a meeting scheduled independently with the two residents that are involved. Actually, one resident who is involved, the other resident said whatever the other resident, since it affects him, that's the one that we, as you recall, this was all stormwater related. The whole reason for the original delay was due to stormwater. So in the meantime, Dan Grachin did a complete study of the stormwater. We reviewed the concepts and know that it will work. We may have some tweaks to it, but it will work, so that part's taken care of. So I don't know if anybody has any questions for these guys.
There's also lighting and you said something.
Well,
about,
yeah, we have all that too.
Okay.
But I mean, the big reason for the holdup was the stormwater.
Okay.
And Dan did that. We're gonna go over every detail on Wednesday morning.
Yes, we are.
With the two residents. Yeah, the lighting, the sound, those were all conditions that we were establishing. And Christina has those written.
Yes.
And we'll
I mean, let's face it, when we do rezoning and it's in an area where it's this close to a residential zone, we do need to be responsible to those residential landowners as much as to the commercial landowners. We'd like to use our property as we're permitted to use it, but we do have to be respectful and cognizant of the fact that we have neighbors. And it sounds like we're actually we have an opportunity to really make a difference for these residential neighbors too, to improve something that we were completely unaware of. So we plan on doing that.
Okay, good.
We can't sell cars if we don't.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from town council? Any questions from the audience? Okay, thank you. Thanks.
after Monday night.
Five, I haven't seen this one. 5, notification that a public hearing has been scheduled for October 22nd, 2018 on an ordinance tentatively identified as ordinance number 1480, an ordinance amending Part 9, Article 913 of the codified ordinances of the town of McCandless entitled Stormwater Management by deleting the existing Article 913 in its entirety and replacing it with a new Article 913 to establish updated regulations regarding stormwater management and sedimentation and erosion controls within the town. A vote will be scheduled at the council's regular business meeting on November 26, 2018. Is that still in process?
We're putting the final touches on it. We have written the body of it. It's substantial. Tucker Arnsberg is going to have to turn that what we've written into an ordinance, and they're prepared to do that. They've done that for many municipalities already. And difference between most municipalities and us is we're completely rewriting the ordinance. There are a lot of cross-references involved in that, and we're still checking the cross-references. I believe we got them all straightened out today.
I saw some emails up until about 5:30 today.
About
There were still some
5:30.
last little tiny tweaks that were getting caught, but it's it's 75 pages, and it's a lot of it's technical. That's why we had Andy Banfield, the stormwater engineer, work really closely with Bruce on this. So it's very close to being completely finished. It's really just formatting more than anything else now. We expect to have it in the next day or two, and then it'll be on display and subject to the public hearing at the end of the month.
And as soon as we have it, longer ordinances like this need to go to town council right away, so we'll just make sure Marie and I are both copies and get it in draw the council's attention to it immediately.
As soon as it is ready, we will zip it over to you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could make a comment, I'd like to note to the solicitor, we probably should add, even in this motion, when we put it on the agenda for the public hearing, at the end of this dissertation regarding stormwater management, sedimentation, et cetera, in accordance with or exceeding Allegheny County 2018 Stormwater Management Plan, which is what precipitated this. We have a very fine stormwater ordinance already in effect. The counties had to do a stormwater management ordinance county-wide, and so that now has started a domino effect on the municipalities having to revisit their stormwater ordinances.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, may I just ask just an overarching question? Are there any significant impacts to riparian buffer sizes or the placement of easements for utilities in those buffers?
We are increasing a buffer for less than 100 acres from 15 to 35. We're maintaining, I believe we're maintaining our 50-foot. The county is written the ordinance so it's 35 the whole way around. I'll have to check to see if we're retaining our 50-foot that we have in the past.
It'll be aligned with the county's ordinance and not exceeding it.
It may exceed it in terms of more than 100 acres. We may have kept 50 acres in there, or 50 feet in there. For more, I'll have to check to see. It was my intention to keep it in. I think it's in, but I can't swear to it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Anything from the audience? Okay, and the next item on the agenda, it will be a notification that a public hearing has been scheduled for Monday, October 22nd, 2018, on the conditional use application filed by Sheets for a service station located at 8500, 8510, and 8518 Perry Highway. This public hearing will be reviewed by Town Council's Zoning Committee meeting of November 12th, 2018, and a vote will be scheduled for Town Council's regular business meeting on November 26, 2018. The service station will have a convenience store component. Is there any, yeah, okay, I was going to outline, but he said wait. Okay, any questions, any comments? Comments by anyone? Okay. The last thing is discuss registering of opposition to Pennsylvania Bill 2564, which will preempt the town's current standards regarding small cell deployment and rights-of-way by the wireless industry. And there is a letter in our package, I believe, to the state senator and our state representative.
This is something that's time sensitive, and I would recommend that we take this letter as is, or if we need to tweak it a little bit, and then send that in, because this is not something that we want to happen.
Get it out tomorrow.
I agree.
Does everyone agree
Yes,
with that?
definitely.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
basically we lose control of our roads and our ability to bill. So if everybody's good with that, send that out, just if it needs any tweaking. And okay.
Give it a read through and then get it out.
Okay, and that ends the,
Do we anticipate that we can successfully take this position?
oh,
You can always
success.
take a position, whether it's successful or not, we'll
Well,
have to
you know,
see.
If we have a lot of friends, it'll help.
Yeah. Well, we need friends for this, right?
Right,
We do.
definitely.
We need friends.
This isn't the first time it's come up. We've been successful in the past.
Well, it seems self-evident to me that we ought to prevail. So, otherwise, it's just unfair. It takes it completely out of our hands.
Maybe we'll send you to be the speaker.
Yeah, I can.
How's
Okay, let's proceed.
Any other comments? Okay, the zoning committee meeting is hereby adjourned.
I call to order the Services Committee meeting. First item on the agenda is the Fire Marshal's report for the month of July 2018 and the permit report for August 2018.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to, real brief, just to let you know that August was another very extremely busy month for the three fire companies. We ran a total of 75 calls, bringing us to year-to-date of 526. We're well on pace to break last year's 720-some calls. Just a couple comments to let you know that our training consisted in August. We were very busy. I may have mentioned it last week, but myself and the chief of police, we conducted a number of ICS tabletop exercises here at Town Hall, which included the three fire companies, members of the McCandless EMS, as well as members of the North Allegheny School District. The McCandless Fire Department, the command staff attended Blue Card command training. There was located at Mount Lebanon's Fire Station. They're training to have a safer and more efficient fire ground, and taking steps to continue to create a safe environment. Also, just a comment that October is the start of Fire Prevention Month. It's officially recognized from October 7th through the 13th. And this year's theme, they have a theme every year. This year's is look, listen, and learn. Be aware, fire can happen anywhere. That's all I have.
Are there any questions from council?
Would it be, just an idea, and you may have already thought about this, is to get some of the information about this to John Brajowski?
Already done. Yep.
Perfect, I should have known.
Yep, number of videos went up on it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Northland Public Library Executive Director Amy Steele to speak and discuss the Northland's 2019 proposed budget.
And I'm also here with Bob Lukich. He's our Director of Finance and Support Services. And I just wanted to ask, it was brought to my attention on my way in this morning that some folks did not receive the 2019 proposed budget. Does everybody now have a copy of that? Okay. So you should have received two documents, one that includes, the budget summary pages, but then I'd like you to look at the budget overview. That's sort of a one-page narrative that alerts you to what we are trying to accomplish with this 2019 budget. And there is one error on the second paragraph there. The total expenditure growth for 2019, it's listed in that narrative as 1.653%. It actually is 2.54%, which is reflected on the actual budget documents. So I just wanted, that was an error that went out in that narrative, so I just wanted to call that to your attention. The biggest things that we are trying to accomplish with this 2019 budget, we are looking to maintain our 2-month operating reserve fund. We are looking to continue the work that we have been doing for the last few years, trying to get our staff salaries to a competitive marketplace level. Last year we had a fairly significant increase in the staff salaries. At the same time, we were making adjustments with our staff benefits for health care, so we are continuing, but at a more modest rate this year. Our staff salary budget for 2019 will increase about 3%. but we're doing that with with a lower increase to salaries overall, the salary budget, because of some turnover that we've had. So we're able to provide some increases in the salaries, but still keeping that salary budget at not that same level of increase. Does that make sense? I feel like I explained that very well. So we're able to give a 3% increase to individual salaries and our salary ranges, but the overall increase to our salary budget is in about the 1.5% range. So, the other thing that we are really working hard to do is to include our depreciation in our budget. This is not something that historically had been done at the library, and it was always noted in our annual audits. When the auditors went through and audited our books, we always had that depreciation number there, but it was never part of our overall budget, and it was not funded. So we are looking to at least bring that into the budget this year. I'm not sure for 2019 if we're going to be able to fund it completely, but we are certainly headed in that direction. We are going to be doing a review of some of the items that are currently on our depreciation schedule. We're not sure that that's as accurate a picture as it should be with having a new accountant in-house. We're looking at everything, so we just want to make sure we'll be working with our auditor on that to review that. So typically, what is always a challenge for us, the state funding, which we actually know that this year. They've actually approved the budget. That state funding will remain flat yet again, so we don't have any help from the state on increases. We are projecting flat funding from the RAD. We don't know their final budget until I think it's beginning of December, so we are being a little bit conservative with that projection. The RAD is currently embarking on a consultant project for looking at all libraries in Allegheny County, and we're just not sure how that process is going to play out, if the RAD will increase our funding as we've asked them to, or if they will use some of that money to pursue some of these options they're looking at with this consultant process. So we're being conservative on that, and we won't know their budget until later in the year. So that leaves our internal funding and then our municipal funding to make up the increases that we have in the budget. So we have typically been running between 3.5% as a total municipal increase. This year we worked really hard and we got just barely under that 3%. And then we've applied our formula, and that's where you see the different costs for each of the municipalities for next year. So we see increased use in Bradford Woods and increased usage and population out in Marshall Township. So you'll see that's why those municipalities are bearing a little bit more of that municipal increase.
Ours is less than 2%.
2.8.
12,000.
Yeah, that's what I say. 12.
McCandless increase over last year is 1.81%.
Yeah, 1.81.
So it's under 2% increase this year for next year.
Would you like to take questions, Amy? Questions from the board?
I would just appreciate, when you come back, we may have some questions then, since I've, not had a chance to read this at all, and it's pretty long, and it's hard to have questions, and it's pretty detailed.
Absolutely. Just let me know when which meeting that would be, that you can want us back here.
Do you want to do it at the agenda review meeting, because we will be voting on this in October, or what do you?
I think it
Is that okay?
Next week?
Do you mind coming back 1 week?
15th, maybe?
I'm in Harrisburg for a conference.
Bob?
Bob could be here.
And we may not have any questions, but it'd just be nice if we have something.
The other
for me.
piece that I should mention was included was the draft of our capital budget, which we had promised you all that we'd be working on that. It's still listed as a draft. As you know, you all gave some letters of support for some grants that we applied for some capital projects. I'm not sure how much of that is out there as public knowledge at this point, but we did receive 2 of the grants that we applied for. And the total money that we have brought in is just over $700,000 to use towards our HVAC, our roof replacement, and our skylight replacement, so.
What page is that on, Amy?
It's the second page after the budget overview. It starts after that.
Okay.
So we've kind of left it in a working draft form while we were waiting to hear back about those grant applications and figure out exactly what we're going to be moving forward with those projects.
When will you finalize that?
The capital budget? I would think we could do that by beginning of 2019.
Once we're sure what we're doing with these 3 projects that we're working on by the end of this year, so we have to figure out exactly which way we're going with those projects and what the financing will be in the final cost of those.
That wouldn't change our portion, though, would it? Our portion
No,
would be the
that will
same.
not change the
Okay.
2019 budget. And that's really what we're trying to do with those, with that capital budget, is to look at some energy efficiencies and to reduce our energy costs. And we're hoping if we have a gap in the funding that we need for those projects. So we're probably going to be financing some of that gap. But we're hoping to be able to pay for that financing out of the energy savings that the new systems will create for us. That way we don't have to come back to the municipalities for any additional funding for those projects. And then once that is paid off, then those energy savings will help to continue to fund the full deferred maintenance and depreciation going forward again, so that we don't have to come back to anybody for additional money, hopefully going forward on those kinds of projects.
Other questions from council? I will add, Ms. Gills, that Allegheny County is looking at the CPACE program.
Yes, we are aware of
And
that.
they are moving post haste.
Okay, that was our biggest
So,
concern, is whether that would
hopefully by the
be
end of
able
the
to
year.
happen soon enough for our needs. If not, we are looking at a couple of other sources that may meet our needs if that is fast enough for
Very
us.
good. Let me ask, are there any comments from the public at this time? Hearing none? Thank you. Ms. Steele? And the Safety Committee is adjourned. Services Committee is adjourned. Sorry.
I'm all covered.
Taking over.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting. First up, we have the Chief's report.
Good evening. I'll be brief. It's been a long night already. The police report is online, obviously, and we're doing some really good things. One of the things we look at is the training. We continue to train very thoroughly, and that benefits everybody in the community. It's something we need to be doing. Also, currently doing background investigations and preparing to present candidates to town council for police positions. We are in need of a minimum of 2 officers to replace the 2 new school resource officers who are doing very well in the school and have been there since August. Thanks to all involved in that particular process. Respectfully, that's all I have.
Okay, I just wanted to mention your bigs in blue, the 7 officers. I wanted to thank you and the 6 others who are involved in that.
Bigs in Blue is a mentor program for the audience. It's something similar to the Big Brothers and Sisters program. We've had 7 officers, including myself. We are going to mentor youth in Knight Elementary School, and it's pretty exciting. I think we can make a positive change in those kids' lives, and more what we want to do to bond with the kids and be an example of leaders as police officers in our community. So thank you for that. We're looking forward to it.
How are the kids selected?
The kids are selected by the group of Big Brothers and Sisters. Bigs and Blues is a program specifically with, and they're children that have some needs.
They're at-risk children? Or
Yes, exactly.
Can I ask why just McKnight, or are they going to look at other schools like
Well,
Peoples?
they
and Hosek?
did a survey and identified their research, they felt that was the most appropriate school to pair with police officers at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Chief, I had a question for you, please. In that our executive session tonight was going to be about these candidates, but since we haven't gotten all of our information yet, do we still need to meet, or?
I don't think so.
Okay,
No,
all right.
Madam
Executive
President.
session is canceled.
That'll be forthcoming
Okay.
for you for the background information. I don't think there's anything relative to discuss in executive session.
I just want to make sure.
Thank you very much.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions?
Terrific question.
Yeah. Okay. Next, further discuss the adoption of an ordinance amending the codified ordinance of the town of McCandless, specifically Article 709 weapons, to establish criteria to obtain a permit from the chief of police to operate a shooting range and/or archery throwing weapons range. Who's gonna
So I
start
guess
with
I could
this?
start. In your packets, there is a slightly modified version of the ordinance that we discussed last time around. This is based on some input from some council persons. Also an error correction that I noticed from the original draft. When we had recited the old ordinance, we had the new fees in the old ordinance. So what we do is basically recite the old ordinance and state that we're repealing it in its entirety and replacing it with an entirely new ordinance. So there was an inaccuracy in introducing the old ordinance. But just kind of stepping back, what this is basically is what's currently in place for regulating shooting ranges is that any operator of a commercial range has to go to the chief of police to get a permit, and the chief issues his permit based on whether he determines essentially whether it's a safe operation or not. And we felt like that was vague, council as a whole felt like that was a vague kind of standard to meet. And during our, the approval of the impacts facility, and kind of post-approval before the impacts opened up, we had decided, all right, we're gonna use this ordinance to essentially negotiate some reasonable standards, with Mr. Rosenberg, the impacts operator, so that we could be sure that council and the town and the chief, were comfortable that the operation was going to be safe for both the public, the customers, the employees. So what we did was issue a permit based on those negotiations, and a lot of what you see in this ordinance mirrors the regulations that were discussed with Mr. Rosenberg, really basically ensuring that health, safety, and welfare is protected during the operation of these commercial ranges. So that's kind of the background. If you want to just look at what specifically is different, I already pointed out that we corrected the fees in section 1. Moving to section 2, we added a provision that the certification by the on-site supervisor has to be by a nationally recognized organization, and that they have to be conspicuously displayed. I think that's the only change on that particular page. Then we jumped down to the next page where it talks about activities, and we had a sentence in there, and this is something that had been carried over from the impacts permit. So Mr. Wilkoskis caught that, and where it said no such activity shall take place outdoors. The concept, as we understood it, was that this is going to regulate all indoor and outdoor firearms ranges. So obviously it's tough to have an outdoor firearms range and have no activities take place outdoors. We recognized that was a miss there. And then the last one was, again, another suggestion by Mr. Wilkoskis, and this has not been discussed, I don't believe, by council. So this is probably the last thing that may be subject of some discussion, is the hours of operation. These hours of operation, this language was borrowed from a state regulation that governs facilities on Commonwealth of Pennsylvania-owned lands. So these are essentially state-owned lands where there are shooting ranges, and what they've done is they've said, all right, essentially these hours here, 8 a.m. to sunset or noon to sunset, weeks versus Sunday. So that sounds like a reasonable start, but again, happy to take any input from council if that's, if any changes.
So we're saying a knife throwing range would have to be indoors?
No, we removed the.
Removed it.
We removed the no such activity shall take place outdoors. That's only in the firearms section anyway. The second portion of this, starting at number 3, talks about bow and arrow shooting, weapon throwing, or other similar range. which would include, for instance, there's a proliferation of axe throwing, at least in this region, for whatever reason, that seems to be a thing that people are getting into. So this would cover essentially projectile weapons, for lack of a better term. So the first set, which are more substantive, really relates to firearm shooting ranges, and then we get, there's kind of a lesser, I don't want to say lesser in the sense that, there's just not as many regulations governing throwing of axes and throwing of whatever weapons you want to, because of the perception at least that it's not as dangerous potentially as firearms.
What about rifle throwing?
If you throw
That
a
would
rifle,
just
that's a
be
good
in
question.
between the two?
We did not contemplate that. I think that would fall into the second one though, if you're not shooting the rifle, if you're chucking the rifle. Yes, good question though, good question.
And are we saying here that, I'm just using impacts as a example, you can't be open after it's dark?
That's only outdoor firearms.
Outdoors.
Oh, okay, just for
Outdoors.
us.
And the reason why that was discussed with Mr. Rosenberg, and he explained, because we had initially said, that seems like a reasonable restriction on all shooting ranges. However, he pointed out to us, and I think the chief agreed, that, hey, look, a lot of the people who train at these things are shift officers. So they may be working, and the only time they can go train is 1 in the morning. And so that seemed certainly like a reasonable kind of exception, or a good reason not to have a strict indoor shooting range firearms hours of operation.
Just would you outline for me, please, others may be aware of this, where are these locations? I know, because I can hear it from my house, the county, the police practicing over there on the, where they practice, I don't know what
North Park.
yeah, it was in North Park, but it's up on the hill.
Academy.
Yeah.
Kimmer
So
Road.
the academy, yeah.
Kimmer.
So I'm not aware of any other indoor or outdoor ranges.
That's the only
other
outdoor one I'm
than
aware of.
Impacts and that shooting. that
And impact,
facility.
so it's just those two, right?
Right.
Well, under our zoning law, is there allowed to be a outdoor range anywhere else? I don't think our zoning law even covers outdoor ranges.
Well, so there's currently a pending zoning amendment that would address where and under what conditions all shooting ranges could operate. But as of right now, I believe the interpretation was essentially that the range was a training facility, essentially. Was that the interpretation?
Yes.
And so, yes, there's nothing specific that I'm aware of in our
Yeah,
current zoning
I mean,
ordinance.
we reviewed at the planning commission, but I don't remember it covering outdoor ranges. Does it?
That's one of the problems we have is where would we permit an outdoor range, or should we only permit them in institutional?
Okay, so.
Since there's already one there, I don't know how to, that's
Okay.
one of the biggest questions we
So,
have.
yeah, we still have to deal with it.
We still have to do
Okay, okay.
What's the county shooting range, is that institutional?
Yes, sir.
What if someone hypothetically wanted to construct their own shooting range and say they had 25 acres, I don't know how many locations they have, they might have that much land.
Private?
Yeah,
We're just regulating commercial ranges.
only commercial.
Yeah, because there's some strong Second Amendment protections as far as shooting on their own property.
So if someone wants to, we're not trying to regulate or prohibit Mr. X from going out in his backyard if it's big enough and setting up a firing range.
You're correct. So again, this is, what we have right now is for me, it's too vague. I think I think you want to have some standards in place. You want them to be defensible. They have to relate to the health, safety, and welfare of the public. We think these are, these have had quite a bit of vetting by this point, so we hope that we're at a place where, even if there's additional change that's required in the future, it would be good, I think, to get something on the books sooner rather than later, because this has been sitting out there for a little while.
Are you saying that you can't regulate a outdoor range on a private, when someone is doing it privately?
I think if you're not treated, if it's not a commercial range, I think we'd be much more restricted in what we'd be able to do. I think that there are state and federal laws that would govern the rights of an individual to use their firearm on private property.
I mean, like, I could just start firing a rifle,
I'd have to take a look at this state.
No,
and federal
no,
laws.
okay.
We have been asked to take a look at that.
It's within 150, I think they're 150
Right, you have to
feet.
be 150
Yes.
yards of any
Yes, but you
permitted
can.
house.
You can do that.
You
Yes,
can?
Yeah, you
absolutely.
can.
At any time?
Well, I guess.
Well, the people could say, well, we're gonna take our permission back if you're gonna shoot at 2 in the morning, but for you, for example, I'd imagine you have 3 or 4 houses with 150 yards.
Yeah,
You would have to get permission from all
We
of
have
them.
an ordinance in place that you cannot discharge a firearm technically in the town, that's on the books.
Right.
But that's not.
Yeah, we don't enforce that one, no.
Yes.
What municipality is the Millville Sportsman Club located?
I would guess Millville, but I'm not sure.
No,
No,
Millville
no,
Sportsman's
Franklin
Club is in
Park.
Franklin Park, and it's
Franklin Park, yeah.
Okay.
quite a bit far.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Madam Chair, I have 2
Was that
questions.
Marshall?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
This side of the street's Franklin
Been
Park.
wondering years.
Mr. Solicitor.
Yes, sir.
2 quick questions.
Yes, sir.
One, I read this, it appears largely to be reasonable. Is there any restrictions that are imposed here that are not already under Mr. Rosenberg's order of operation over there? Is this essentially aligned with the way that the impacts is being operated?
I do believe so, because again, since he's indoor, obviously anything applying only to outdoor wouldn't apply to him, and, you know, I think everything else is consistent. As a matter of fact, a lot of it's literally just cut and pasted from the permit letter that we issued.
And the second question, and this is in relation to the hour of operation, you may have already answered it, but I am concerned about law enforcement needing to train under limited light conditions at the academy shooting range, and I want to make sure that this restriction, which for a commercial range is totally understandable, I would not want to restrict and have our training police not be able to practice under low light conditions from time to time.
This ordinance wouldn't apply to the county,
Right.
right?
Well, the
And
county-
that's my question.
Yeah, the
Maybe
county
he answered
facility's
it.
within the McCandless boundary, right?
But
You know,
it is, but it's
on
not,
county-
technically it's
on
not
county-
commercial though, is it?
That's probably a good way to look at it,
No,
because
that's
if you're not allowing, you know, Joe Q public off the street, or even members off the street, to pay their money and go shoot, if it's purely an institutional or governmental training facility, I think we would take that interpretation to say this only applies to commercial ranges.
What regulations, and I guess I'm mixed up.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you want to follow
Perhaps-
through?
Yes, I would like to follow through.
Please
and
go ahead.
Suggest perhaps clarifying language, if that's the agreed intent here.
Sure. Can we do that? Let me
To
see.
protect that.
They were out there shooting just while we're outside of the big
Yes, sir.
Well, what I was going to ask was, are there regulations that cover the county shooting range? What's that?
I'm sure
They
they
have
are.
their own.
Yeah.
I mean, but this does not, is that what we're saying?
We wouldn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how far the town wants to go in regulating police
No,
training.
but it's an
facilities.
outdoor shooting range, I thought.
Well, that's why we're carving it out,
Okay.
we'll add language making it clear that it's not
Right.
going to apply. So, taking those concerns into account, I'll make some modifications and then recirculate.
Okay, any other questions?
Can we try to put this on for the 3rd Thursday this month? Wow, Monday. Sorry.
Been a long day.
Listen carefully.
Thursday.
If it doesn't pass on Monday, we're gonna come back on Thursday.
Oh, no,
Just reconvene
no,
the meeting.
no.
You can reconvene the meeting.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Sorry.
Okay.
But is that okay for us to shoot for that toward the end of the month so we get this taken care of?
Yeah. On whatever that day
Don't tell me
is.
you didn't intend that.
I did
Yeah.
not intend that.
Okay, any questions from the public? Okay, so moving on. Discuss request from PennDOT Highway Occupancy Permit Manager William Lesterick to conduct a speed limit study on McKnight Road and Babcock Boulevard to where McKnight Road meets Route 19. Toby.
At the outset of the McCandless Crossing development, the town council asked me to write a letter to PennDOT concerning the speed limit on McKnight Road from where it's shown on the agenda, basically Perry-Mont Babcock intersection to its terminus at Perry Highway. The state said, let's hold off until later on, till the development is further into its final stages. And PennDOT has had a subsequent request from a resident who has contacted them saying, are we going to ever do anything about speed limit through this area? And Bill Lestrick has called me. He's the permit manager, and he asked if we would like PennDOT to do that speed limit study now. in concept, it sounds like a great idea, and I just want to point out that should a speed limit reduction be authorized by PennDOT, we would be required to install the signs at the appropriate locations. So we have that responsibility.
Okay. Any other questions?
Would you like me to?
Not a particular fan of slowing the speed limit down.
I didn't even see that there are many citations issued in that area.
The chief may know of the accident history. I know of one particular accident, happens to be a colleague and a friend, that he got T-boned at the intersection of Duncan and McKnight with somebody running a red light going approximately 60 miles an hour. And his wife has been recovering from her injuries for about 2 years. I don't know what PennDOT would require if you want to proceed would be our police department to provide an accident history of 3 years to them, so that they would analyze to see if they want to reduce the speed.
Did you hear Kim's question?
I'm sorry?
I didn't know if you heard.
I didn't even see that there were any citations issued on that stretch of the road.
What data are you looking for? I did.
Last 3 years.
Last
Yeah.
3 years.
Any in the last 3 years.
No, yeah.
Does that seem to be a speed area for you?
You're
Do you
talking
think
about
that's
the
a
merge
problem?
point at 19?
Right. Well,
The length of
Anywhere
the
from
All of
McKnight,
McKnight.
Harrymont
Yeah,
to Giant
that-
Eagle.
We do it, that's part of our grant of our aggressive driving program. So we issue quite a few citations from there all the way up into Wexford.
Aggressive, but what about speeding?
Speeding is underneath, there's certain categories, speeding is one. We do speed enforcement up there quite regularly on the Wexford Flats.
Well, this
on
isn't-
the Wexford Flats.
This isn't up to Wexford Flats,
You're
yeah.
talking about just the.
McKnight Road from Harrymont to 19.
We also run there too, I'll get you some information.
Right.
Do you think that we need to do this? Is it your recommendation that we recommend this speed study
From PennDOT.
from PennDOT? Is that your recommendation? You're the expert on this, so we thought under public safety.
What is the cost?
Have you, will you hand him the agenda so he can see what is proposed there, please?
Number 4.
PennDOT will perform the study. We have to give them the data. Our obligation would be that we would have to post any
Right.
reduced speed signs.
But what does a sign run?
Marks in the back.
Sorry?
Cost of a speed limit sign?
Unless they lower the speed to 40 miles an hour, they put the signs up. They're not our responsibility.
Which they
40
probably would,
40
it's
and over,
already 50,
PennDOT
why would they
maintains,
lower it to
they put 'em up,
45?
maintain 'em.
Did you say lower than 40?
If we're
Lower to
responsible for
40.
signs with a speed limit less than 40.
Oh, I doubt that.
40 and up, PennDOT
Thank you.
installs and maintains.
40 would be the lowest I think
Yeah.
it would go. I can't
You would
imagine.
hope.
It's 40 through the busy McKnight Road Business District. No.
No.
But do you think we should recommend this then?
Thank you.
I don't see a reason personally,
You
but
think it's
It'd be
good?
advantageous to do this.
Okay. I'm for recommending it then.
All right, send a letter. Thank you, Mark, for
Everybody's
clarifying.
okay with that?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
What was it an actual decision to reduce it from 50 to 40? Is that what was?
Oh, no.
No, honey,
No.
do the study.
It's just to do the
Just
study.
to do the
That's
study.
what I thought.
Yeah.
PennDOT would do the
Well,
study.
that should be, I think that's
And
acceptable.
Mark has corrected me that we are not responsible if
Yeah,
the
I-
speed limit
I
stays
heard
40
what
or
you
higher.
said, yeah.
And I appreciate that information.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Any other questions? Public? Okay. Well, this closes the Public Safety Committee meeting.
Call to order the Public Works Committee meeting. Notification, bids are being received until 10 a.m. October 12, 2018 for stream bank restoration at an unnamed tributary to Lowry's Run along Highland Road upstream of Oneida Avenue under the 2018 segment of the town's PADEP Permitted Pollutant Reduction Plan and projectile-specific PADEP permit. Any questions on that? A lot of P's in there, like a tongue twister.
Liberation.
Any questions from the public on that?
I'd like to get this project done here this fall.
Okay. Item number 2 is a Public Works activity report. see Mark is here for.
If you have any questions about it, I'll be happy to answer them. September, once again, was an extremely wet month, so our outdoor activities were kind of limited time-wise. We were able to accomplish a lot of work on some of the retention ponds with cleanup, and got a lot of the curbs backfill along roads that were taken.
Any questions from council or the public? Item number 3 is a report on the 2018 paving program.
Paving work was substantially completed by the end of August, totally completed by mid-September. We are currently working on getting final measurements and calculating all the final quantities for the program, which should be done probably this week. And so everything that was on contract has been completed.
Any comment from council on that? Public comment on public works? Would this not be, this is Marie and Jarvis and Ron Jarvis, when they would talk about that?
If you'd like.
Do you have anything to say about your parking situation?
Yeah. My name is Maria Jarvis. I live on North Florence Road. And we had a problem last year. Well, it's been going on for years. But we came and discussed it with the members and the council here. It's a double cul-de-sac. It's a dead end, no outlet road. There's an upper cul-de-sac and a lower cul-de-sac, but we were having a lot of problems with the upper cul-de-sac. It runs along my property, and it's very dark there. And we've had problems with people parking there. I brought it to the police, okay, the chief, about there's been needles there, there's been used condoms there, there's a lot more disgusting things than that I can say that have been there that I've had to pick up. It's been not just a nuisance, it's a danger hazard there, because you never know who's there. They took care of the problem, the council voted on it, to remove the upper cul-de-sac, and because it was just a turnaround and a parking problem there. And they removed that, and they're supposed to put dirt on either side of the cul-de-sac to stop that problem. But what happened was, on my side there is, on the opposite side there has not. There was put in millings and gravel for the landlord, I believe. You said asked if they could put 2 parking spots there, and I don't understand why that was done, because they have a driveway. When that was built, the 5 duplexes that are there, each one has garages and driveways, and that duplex that is there in front of the duplex, there's plenty of room for, there's flat ground, they can expand that. And the landlord did take up some of his parking by putting a split rail fence to divide the driveways where cars were parking in there before. So he took up some of his own parking there. So I don't understand why the council voted and the dirt was to be put there. Now, since that's happened, everything has been cut down, I would say 90% of the problems. There's still, I think, going to be problems forever. They won't turn around in the bottom cul-de-sac because I've stopped these people and argued with them. Because of the problem with the cars parked down there, they do not park in their driveways or in their garages. And I said it before, and I believe it's laziness. They can just park on the street, walk right in their house. They don't want to have to go downstairs, walk upstairs. But what that creates is having head-in parking, people will not turn around down there. And that's the argument and fight why people keep coming up here, turning around, they ride up over my property. I've put ornamental rocks there. I've just recently put new ones there since they put the dirt there. But the problem is there have been people that, there's a white van or box truck that has turned around in that section, and it's just asking for the same problems that we've asked to stop. It's encouraging people to still turn around and park there. There's been one vehicle that parked there, and by the time you call the police, it's sort of useless because they're not there, as soon as you call. There's been a car that has an extended truck. He tried to turn around that area while a car was parked there. And it's not 15 foot from the fire plug, so he went over into the dirt to turn around and up over my property in the dirt where they just put in. So that's where I put another rock there. So it's encouraging people to still turn around there when they shouldn't be turning around there or parking there still. It is a problem, and I don't feel as a resident I should have to police my property 24/7, and it's dark there. I wanted that back so I can possibly straighten my fence out to put lighting across there to stop people. I've talked to Mr. Mertz. I've told him recently, before they filled it with dirt, I found there's 7 bullets out there. I don't know anything about bullets, but I understand they weren't fired. Don't know what that's from. It's too dark in there. I don't know what goes on there, and I'm not going to go out at night anymore. The police have said, well, do you see the vehicles you do? I would have to go outside to do that, to tell you what the license plate number in the vehicles are. It's a dangerous situation, not that that's going to stop it, but that's encouraging people to still park there and turn around and be a problem there. And the bottom cul-de-sac, like I said, it was supposed to be addressed about the head-in parking, that people will not turn around. The salt trucks have a trouble turning around down there. The delivery trucks, the garbage trucks, the mail trucks, they back up because of the head-in parking. And all the duplexes, they have driveways and garages they can park in. They did it when they milled and paved the roads. They were all off the street because they were ordered to do so. So obviously they can do that. They're just not forced to do so.
So I did talk to Toby a bit about it. It doesn't look like we can do a lot about where they're putting the millings. That seems to be town policy pretty much. But why are we still allowing them to, because I was just down there 2 weeks ago, still allowing everybody to park head in down there? Do we have any idea why
That's a question for the chief.
the police keep saying that we don't have it in our ordinance and they can't enforce it because of that?
At one point, we were told that it was state law.
Yeah,
It had to
I
be
would
parallel
say
parking, but
You're not allowed to head in a cul-de-sac.
Right, well, I would think the same thing, but the police are saying that. And then the next question, this is just a possible simple solution. On their side, can we raise that bank up a little bit, maybe, Mark, to add extra dirt for them so no one would back into their property?
you talk about Jarvis's side, right? Your
Right.
side.
Yes.
We could do that.
My only problem is, like I was explaining to Mr. Mertz, if I put rocks up there, which you're not supposed to be doing, if they're backing in and out, which the truck with the extended bed did, he comes up over my property. So if they run over top of that stuff, I'm going to be responsible for the damaged people's vehicles, and I don't think that's fair that the township, when we've already agreed, the town to take the cul-de-sac out and put dirt there, that's what it was agreed upon.
I'm not aware of any agreement about dirt being placed there.
You mean to put parking there?
Our typical response to backfilling on curbs is to put dirt and grass. It's typical.
Right.
But if someone has a request for millings, that saves us money by doing that. And if that's what somebody wants, and to have an off-street parking situation here, it seems like that would help solve part of the problem.
Well,
Is to have, rather than have cars parked on the street, is to have them parked off the street. That's something that you and several of your neighbors have asked for there. So it seemed like it would help to provide a pretty good solution. So it saves us grass seed, mushroom manure, and so forth, planting and hydro seeding process if we use that. So and we have a lot of millings. I said that earlier in the meeting about millings are a commodity we have accessible to us. So it seems like it helps the situation to have people be able to park off the street.
But the reason is the problem that was going on there, and the duplex does have ample parking. They do have ample parking down there. There's no reason why they can't park in their own driveways. They have little cars, 2 cars, and they can park in a driveway. It's just they want to park up there, and there's no reason to it. That was taken out for a reason.
We have an ordinance that allows people to create parking spaces that are parallel to the curb so that they don't park on their grass.
I understand, but they could do that down where his driveway is and widen it. You created a problem again, like I just said, that we got rid of the problem.
It's a choice that people have. I mean, they're allowed to request it, and we provide that as a solution. And then also, again, it takes a car off the street.
But he put a split rail fence that took up some of the
That's his
property,
choice. He-
parking on his own property, that he took away parking. Now he's asking that he needs parking. You took away parking on your property by putting a split rail fence up. And you're creating the problem back again, like I said, that people are coming out parking there and turning around, the same thing that tried to stop. And that's what was taken away for parking there. There's no reason why down in the cul-de-sac, the front of the duplexes, they're all in the bottom cul-de-sac. That's where the front of the duplexes are. This is the side of the duplex. He has plenty of ground in the front of his duplex that there's no reason why that couldn't be expanded. And like I said, he put a split rail fence there to divide. It took up 2 more spots that he could park there. They used to park there.
Well, that would, as far as I've talked to everyone, it does sound like we don't have a lot of option. I mean, we had the option of not putting the millings there, even though we've done it everywhere else. But we don't have a lot. He could come back in and still put millings there, whether we had put them there or not. And from everyone I've talked to, I don't think there's a lot we're going to be able to do about it. But can we look into this parallel parking problem again? And Mark is saying that he should be able to raise your dirt level to stop, at least hopefully stop people from backing up onto their side of the street.
I can ask Chief, yeah.
I mean, if there's banks all over the place. If the chief's not going to say you can't have a bank on the side of your house.
No, about
the parking.
The parking itself,
to be
okay.
parallel, yeah.
Right, well, we need to deal with that because that's been over a year, or maybe just about a year. And there's still, every time we've talked to the police, they've said.
The chief.
Yeah.
The chief.
I have asked the chief.
What does he say?
I'll ask the chief tomorrow.
It seems to be pretty much the same thing. They don't have any ordinances down there, which there's no parking in that's what we're getting. There's no ordinance that they can ticket these people. They can't ticket these people for parking hidden because of the way our rules read.
That's a confirmation by the police department.
Okay.
Didn't somebody just say that
That's what, yes.
that it's illegal under state law to park like that?
We were told that, yes.
Well, and can our local police
You would think.
cite on that
Of course
basis?
they can.
They should be able to.
That
So
they,
then
for some reason,
the
or
answer is
not.
we need to go directly to the chief. Yes, I went down there and asked them, and they referred me back up here. And then I talked to here, they referred me back down there. They said there's nothing they can enforce down there.
Well, we have to win that one because we're right about that one. We don't have that law up here.
All right,
So as of the parking, then leaving that parking there beside the fire plug. I mean, in that area, on that other side.
I heard nothing about a fire plug before.
Well, that's what I was mentioning. Yeah,
It's
there's a
not-
fire plug.
It's not parking within distance of the fire plug to affect the fire department.
It's 15 foot, but it's 13 foot. So give or take 2 feet, but it's still on that side where the fire plug is. But that's what I'm saying, for parking still there. Because the cul-de-sac was supposed to be removed. I thought if he would come in down below, there would be no problem with that. But the cul-de-sac we got rid of for those reasons, and it's dark up there.
Steve,
People are parking there.
I think we're getting, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean,
we
there's.
can do it. We can, our policy for years has been to, if someone requests alternate material, Mr. Mertz asked me about alternate material, and we had a woman who wanted crown vetch planted, and Steve said, whoa, wait a minute. He said, so we talked to her and actually talked her out of that. We gave her 1 trillion seats, trefoil seats. So anyway, it's a choice. People have it's their property, and they maintain that area if they prefer. We're not going to give them a product that's going to be of higher value. But millings is again a commodity we have. It's
And the gravel on top and rolling it, that's what I'm just saying, all that was done, instead of just putting the dirt and grass seed on it.
We did, and we've done it before. It's not something that's brand new to that area. If we've got an open area, we don't go in and dig soil out in front of someone's house to create a parking space for them. But if they had something there that resembled a parking space and they asked us to put it back that way, we do that, and we've done it.
But that's why I was just wondering why it was considered to be put back in. It's not just a straight road or a pump, there was an actual problem that was there for years going on. The police have well known about it, like I said, all the activity that's gone on there.
You're talking about the cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac, the
Right,
other
the
cul-de-sac.
cul-de-sac's gone. we've taken that out.
Well, it's not when the road is paved straight, but the round part of the cul-de-sac is where you have this parking for these people to park, and people to turn around and people to park at.
They have it. That is their area they want to park. I mean, you could do the same. It's a property owner's choice.
All right,
So that property is his and that property is mine.
Yours to maintain, his to maintain. If
Do I own the property?
No, the town owns it, you maintain it.
Okay, well, that's another problem I have, because with the residents, some of them that were there, it was a problem of me maintaining it, and then they can use it and do whatever they want with it. I refuse to do that, because they've made comments about that the township still, or the town owns it, that I have to maintain it, so nobody gets hurt or anything like that. How can I put anything up there?
We have an
And
ordinance.
maintain this.
We have an ordinance that requires no one to put anything closer than 3 feet. Rocks have to be 3 feet back. When we come through with a paving program, it gives us the opportunity to move rocks back. They somehow, eventually, some magically reappear again. But
all right.
I understand, but that's what I'm saying, how would we go about that? How would I go about that with the people turning around there and coming up on my property and damaging still the
I have
problems
no
still there?
idea,
How
but
would and then, like I said,
You
I
on
have
the
to
5
maintain
minutes?
that.
And you don't have any solutions either?
you know, if the distance between the back of the curb and something ornamental, a rock or whatever, can be grass. It can be. A lot of people some people put river rock, and I commented about that recently.
And why would they be able to sue? Well, if someone backed them to say if you put a fence 3 feet back.
I don't think that's true.
Do you have any?
No,
Fences
that
are further, fences are required,
If
can't be
someone drives
right.
onto your private property and busts up their car because you have an object there,
Right.
I think it's a tough lawsuit. I wouldn't want that case if I
Yeah,
was a
the
lawyer.
police
who was
already
chasing.
told me I would have a problem with that. So
But he's
that's
saying
what
that
I'm
would be
trying
very
to say.
tough for them to
I
prove.
don't think that's a very good case for whoever.
Okay, well, we have to, as Kim's pointing out, we're over our 5 minutes. We're beyond the scope of our normal agenda, so we're gonna try to do those 2 things at least for now. And we'll have to come up with some other, you'll have to come back on a different time for this. I don't think it's gonna happen, but if you wanted to try to get this property worked out somehow in a different way. So, is there any other questions? Doesn't look like, or? All right.
Have you been there, Steve?
Yeah, I've been there multiple times. These
But
people
with
at
her,
the bottom.
With her, walking with her?
With her, without her. I was there when they paved, just looking at it. I was there when they were building the basins, just looking at it. There's no way to turn around with 4 or 5 cars parked down there. And they're always head in. I've never been there without one car, at least one car parked head in. So, all right.
Can I ask one more question? Is there a way of getting that property back into my name then? So I
Oh,
can
yeah,
move?
that's town right of way. That's town right of way. We have a right of way there. There's utilities, it might be in there, or it's what's called a right of way. No, it's.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, you want me to maintain something, people are gonna
We all
destroy the
do. I
property.
think we all have some kind of right of way in front of our property.
But you're creating the problem that I have to deal with. That they're gonna destroy my property. I mean,
Well-
you're saying it's not my property, it's the township property, but I have to maintain it. So I have to keep fixing the ruts and keep greasing and keep taking care of the property?
Well, isn't her property, but the
insane.
town has the right of way?
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's your property, but the town owns it, has a right of way of, it's the law.
I think it'd probably be pretty safe putting rocks up at 3 feet. Obviously, you'll have other issues, but at that point, I think, again, back to the game camera issue and catching these people and getting somebody down there for the parking problems that people don't want to turn
You
down.
get somebody destroying your personal property, that's
Right.
turn it over to the police.
Right. All right, adjourn the Public Safety Committee, or, yeah, Public Works Committee.
That's fine.
All doing that tonight, huh?
Call to order the Finance and Personnel Committee. Review the checklist of bills dated September 6, 2018 through, let me read from the right book, for October 14th, 2018, totaling $1,161,968.06 is submitted to each member of council and posted on the bulletin board and town website. Any questions about the expenses? Okay. Review of resolutions setting dates of various meetings of the town council and town authorities, boards, commissions, and advisory meetings for the 2019 calendar year. We all received those. Some of them are altered because of holidays. That's usually about the only thing that we've changed.
The zoning hearing board has been changed.
Oh, yeah, I saw that it was questionable. Is it for sure changed then?
I left a question mark on that,
Oh.
because I didn't know if
Question,
the,
was it for
if
sure
that-
changed?
if that's still in flux.
That's subpart D, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll have to check with Bruce, but I'm pretty sure it's what they, one to accommodate one of the members of the zoning.
Clearly,
hearing.
that's what he said when he was here. Bruce.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there was just a question. Okay.
Um,
Any other
okay.
questions
Let's do
about
it.
the calendar at all? Okay, number 4, discuss adoption of a resolution supporting the Women Impacting Public Policy, WIPP, and Small Business Saturday Coalition, proclaiming Saturday, November 24th, 2018, as Small Business Saturday in the town of McCandless. This is just a proclamation trying to support local small business, and it is on the Saturday between Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Anybody have a problem with us supporting small business? Okay. All right, so we'll just put that on to do that in our meeting. Number 5, notification that a resolution is required to adopt to authorize 2018 allocation of the general municipal pension system aid. We have to do that.
It follows the policy we've had, put in effect a number of years ago. The administrative charges paid first, the police pension fund, MMO, paid second. Any monies left over go toward non-uniform pensions.
And that should all be in your packet, it's pretty clear. Any questions about that, concerns? Notification that a resolution is recommended to be adopted to designate Assistant to the Town Manager John Brajowski as the town's interim open records officer, also referred to as the Right to Know officer. As Regis' last day is Monday, we'll need to delegate that to someone else, and it's a resolution, so we have to have another resolution.
His last day is in fact the 31st of October, so this will give us plenty of time to appoint John interim, which will take effect November 1 in the resolution.
Everybody okay with that? John's very capable.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have any seminar or conferences coming up. Any comment from anyone in the audience? From council, then I adjourn the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting.
I'd like to call to order the Recreation Committee. Notification of the resolution is required to authorize the acceptance of a grant from National Fitness Campaign in the amount of $30,000 for the construction of an outdoor fitness court. Anyone have a question, Calvin?
We had a pretty thorough discussion on that the last time.
Yeah, we discussed this before, so is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any other public comment? That concludes the Recreation Committee.
Okay.
10 o'clock sharp.
And we do not have to go into executive session, so we are adjourned.